Excuse me for drinking coffee as this is starting. Hello, everybody. I don't see where the viewers are yet, but I'll keep an eye out here. There it is. All right, welcome. This one tonight is, I've done a lot of material on it in the past, but it's all kind of been scattered in different places and difficult to find. And I know this is going to take like a really long time actually to really completely discuss, like, I guess, all the mechanisms and workings of it. And so, welcome everybody. Welcome Wordsmith and welcome Lisa. I appreciate you joining. Um, I just wanted to review some of the material tonight that I've done in the past really quickly. So, if you're already familiar with one of my biggest presentations, I'm going to start with that. And that way, because I didn't give very much notice on this, it gives people something that if they've already seen, you can just sort of skip past it. You know, like if you're watching this now, I wouldn't recommend it though, because I still think it's worth reviewing because it'll help you. It'll give you industry related visuals. Like you can actually see presentations from companies that provide the hardware that do the intercepts of smartphones and hacking of phones. I have them all on this presentation. And because a lot of people, it's hard for them to wrap their head around when I try to explain to them that there's some pretty sophisticated technology hacks that are going on, and that you oftentimes need a person that has a little bit more than average wireless industry experience to interpret the data accurately. Or at least, but look, I'm not perfect. Okay. There's times where like I didn't work in every type of company or technology, but these presentations that are within these slides that I'm going to show in this opening part here, the terminologies that are used make sense to me. My ability to deconstruct what it says in them it makes sense to me. But I can tell you straight up, like never within my job function did I ever have to install, operate, run, or be involved with on any level an intercept, as weird as that sounds. I've never once in the over 20 years that I was in wireless did I ever actually get personally involved with an actual intercept device at a hardware level. It was never required of me. It was never asked of me. No one once ever came to my desk. And I was in departments that should have technically handled it. For whatever reason, guys, it's just never something that landed on my desk. That shouldn't surprise anyone either, though, because it would be a very small and limited group that would have handled that. And you would have people that would, and there's a reason why. It's because of legal responsibility within the company. They would probably have a very select and elite group of people that would handle those types of requests because they involve something called CALEA, CALEA, which, oh man, I really don't even remember what that stands for. But there's things called CALEA laws. Let's look it up really quick so I'm not just going blah, blah. CALEA laws, law enforcement. Okay, lawful intercept. Here it is, guys. So I'm not talking blah, blah, blah to you. This is actually a thing. Here it is. I'll put a slide up here. It's a thing that we had to be cognizant of, I guess, that we didn't ever handle something that was illegal. Like when I was in the wireless industry, we weren't permitted to, like at my level, ever directly get involved with something involving law enforcement. There always had to be somebody high up in the company that would handle what was called a CALEA request. Then and only then would we ever get involved. And I can just tell you that even though I knew a couple people that got involved with those investigations, I just wasn't one of them. And so here, I'm going to put this up on the screen. So here's an example of what a legal intercept looks like so that you have an idea. I got this from FBI.gov. This is an actual thing from their website, so you know what it is. The National Domestic Communications Assistance Center, a hub for technical knowledge management. All right, so where does it say CALEA? That's weird. I see nothing involving the term CALEA. Interesting. Okay. Lawful intercept standards, CALEA. Okay, lawful intercept standards. Here it is. To ensure industry-wide implementation of the assistance capability requirements of Section 103 of CALEA, the FBI, through its CALEA Implementation Unit, CIU, in coordination with other... What does CALIA stand for, guys? This is all right. Let's see if this is lawful intercept compliance. Oh, lawful intercept, LI, law enforcement agencies, LEA. So CALIA. Oh, isn't that clever? Communications Assistance for Law Enforcement Act. That's what it is. Here it is, guys. So again, companies will all have standards on, what they're allowed to do or not allowed to do, the proper procedures to which to process what's called a CALIA request. All right, that's when it's done the right way. Okay. So what I'm going to talk about tonight is when rogue groups, let alone groups that may be just insiders at FBI and other law enforcement agencies, can just simply hijack large amounts of communication networks doing this. Here's our problem, folks. You have to start understanding that once things like Harris Stingray intercepts, those unfamiliar, it's just a brand of one type of cell phone intercept that's done. That one is done with participation, I believe, of the cell phone carriers. But there's another brand called Cobham that does not require the participation of a wireless carrier, and it's done through cell jamming, spoofing a person's cell phone into thinking it's on the cell phone network when it's really on a private network that's lagging them via time delay, and deciding whether or not that person gets every single one of their texts, every single one of their financial transactions. They can literally filter them, review them, stall them, lag them, take percentages of them, all of it. Okay. I've experienced this very aggressively in my last 5 years, which is to me very curious, considering I have relatives that are in cybercrime division and, was formerly in the cybercrime division. My aunt was. And then my brother's currently at the National Security Directorate, which has more surveillance power than God himself or herself or itself or whatever you perceive God the Creator to be. I would argue that my big brother, has access to surveillance capabilities on the scale of the 1984 George Orwell Big Brother, as well as God themselves. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm telling you guys, and I'm not just exaggerating this. I could show you the organization chart where he works. You'll see he's side by side with people at the NSA, counterintelligence, and Homeland Security, doing something called the National Security Directorate functions. So the fact that when I brought to his attention that there's significant telecommunication hacks and compromises going on, let me just put it this way. His responses back to me didn't satisfy me. They didn't seem to be genuinely as curious as they should have been, especially coming from a younger brother of his who has 2 decades of wireless industry experience and should have been taken very seriously at that point, but instead was given like a pat on the head and told that I, quote, have potential. Man, I love it when I've been this gaslit by people in my personal life for so long. Despite the fact that almost nobody could possibly really chip any holes in my information, but they still try to. I have to ask myself, why is it that there's so many parties that don't have anywhere near my technical knowledge, history, and past, which I can show you if you're curious, guys, or you can just link to my Twitter, and my resume is posted right there. You'll see I've worked not only in some pretty significant positions relative to designing of cell towers, optimization of cell tower networks, device testing, smartphone testing. Yeah, I did those types of things in my past, guys. So I know what I speak here. All right. So getting into it, so I don't waste a lot of time. Now I'm going to transition into a presentation. This one here. No, not that one there. All right. Well, maybe I should do something. That one's kind of a crude presentation, though. I did that one on some notebook paper. So let me just start off with the large presentation here, because I kind of want people to see this one to begin with, because this really does kind of cover really everything that you need to kind of understand at a larger scale about the basics of cell phone intercepts and the types of hardware that exist that can do it. It is a bit of a long article, but I think it'll lay a good foundation work for us to begin the discussion on. So with that in mind, If I need to, I'll stop it, but I'm gonna try to let it play all the way through. But you know how I am; I can never just let it play all the way through. Especially if I've learned something new, I might stop it. So, all right. So here you go.
Hey everybody, just want to have a quick presentation regarding, I guess, what we could call something like a death race that's out there using electronic weapons. I call it rogue electronic warfare. These would be groups that are basically into information warfare, stealing information, specifically in the modern era where everybody carries their entire life on a smartphone. Increasingly, what is on those smartphones and what is on the chips that are contained within our wallets, the smart cards, the smart fobs that contain all the information for perhaps where you live. You might have a security entrance that requires a fob or something like that. These are all these modern ways that we have of communicating now and passing information that have informational exploits if you can read the information contained on said devices. So what would that translate to? So for cars, what I've observed is that there's, I guess you could say, groups that are operating in teams that drive around patrolling to steal information. They use a series of different frequencies, which I can get into to some degree, but I don't want to overload this with technical information. But to give you some brief summary.
Just so you guys know, tonight that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to overload you with technical information with those exact numbers. So this is just the basics of it in this presentation, and then I'm going to whiteboard the rest. That's coming up here in a second, or well, in 20 minutes.
Most smartphones operate on, with the exception of the new 5G phones, which have a whole new set of frequencies. Most of the original bands that are on nearly every smartphone now are like quad band. And, so cell jammers nowadays are going to try to jam your frequencies, whether like, your phone, if you're in the United States, you'll have like one smartphone that, in addition to having a Wi-Fi radio that can do 2.4 and 5.8 gigahertz, and a Bluetooth and all that other types of functionality. It can also do multiple bands that can communicate between your cell phone and the cell tower. And those frequencies are leased by the FCC. And there's quad band radios that can communicate back and forth with all of them. So these jammers have to be increasingly more sophisticated and have to come up with more creative ways. So I found it really interesting when I discovered that Cobham sells a complete mobile, I guess you could say something similar to a Harris Stingray that allows them to mimic cell towers, create private networks or intranets, something similar to like an enterprise type network, but a wireless enterprise or a wireless intranet of sorts that can pass both data and voice. So these people can drive around car to car. They're on their own network because they're creating their own hive network that has the same frequency that's communicating. And what they're seeking to do, I call these people Jeepers Creepers, the ones that do this. There's ones that are of different levels of sophistication, but they effectively drive around jamming people off of their network and pushing them onto theirs. And then they have access to your network, can modify information, can change your text messages, can intercept your text messages, completely prevent them from coming in or swap them out for other ones, things of that nature. Or things involving, now that we're into more modern systems, they can do things to your application data. So if you do work-based, like gig-based apps and things like that, they can modify your earnings, short you on your earnings, things of that nature. So maybe you thought you earned, $20 for a job, for example. They can, take even just small amounts, like 10% off of every transaction, to where, maybe.
Hang on. I want to point out this exact dynamic is happening to me. Number one, it's been happening to me for a long time. It's one of the reasons why I take this issue so personally, in case anybody ever wonders, like, why don't you get over it? Well, I think if you became aware that a group as insidious as the one that I'm telling you has been taking percentages of your income, and you're already barely struggling to make it, and you have future plans that you would like to see come to fruition, well, whatever. Hey, things happen. What can I say? It strikes at the core of, Yeah, I take it personal. I do. Because I know how many people this is happening to that are struggling, that don't even know how it's happening to them. They just know it's happening, and no one's helping them. The federal agencies aren't helping them, just like they're not helping me. I have very powerful people that have more surveillance capabilities than God that can decrypt every single thing I'm telling you here, and they do nothing because somebody's benefiting from all this chaos and corruption. And I am never going to allow myself in any given situation, no matter who it is, attempt to make me question this excessively in any unreasonable way beyond just the average of, are you sure? In which case I'll say, yes, let me give you this presentation respectfully. If you're willing to watch it, great. Then you're going to learn something about why it's happening, how it's happening. Then you'll never question my validity again. And if you do, I got to wonder, because I do come from 2 decades of wireless industry experience that basically handled all the complex relationships that you're seeing on this screen right here. It was my job. My job was optimizing all these relationships between how the cell tower handed off to the cell phones. I know more than damn near anybody out there on this topic, and I will never allow myself to be gaslit on any level. I just want that to be known. Never gaslight me on this. Ever, please. Because it does strike at my core. This is what I spent 2 decades of my life learning. I can't just flush that down the toilet and act like it didn't happen, like I never learned it. And no one else is doing anything. They are, guys, actually. I don't want to say that. Nobody's being the public face of it, though, because guess what? Guess what happens when you're the public face of fighting this? Well, what do you think happens, you guys? How many people out there are willing to take on that kind of risk? But I was. So it did put me in a compromised position informationally. It did increase this type of activity. I can't help that. I've been very open within all my presentations about how this works and about what I know and about what it all leads to. Just making sure that that's known. So there has to be a way out of this, ladies and gentlemen, because no civil society can exist with the types of levels of use of intercepts that are going on in America, like these have actually allowed to happen. It is ridiculous how much thievery is going on out there through these intercepts, because these aren't just taking text messages and sniffing around on your calls. They are stealing percentages of your income. They are stalling money back and forth within all your transactions, especially if you're a little bit more, guys, they don't care. Like, I'm poor. They'll do it to me just to make me like more miserable. But when you're a little bit more affluent, it's about stalling and lagging your money, and that's why you are on their list. Even if you've ever done nothing else, all you really got to do nowadays is kind of be in that category and then have opposing beliefs to groups like Antifa, which is pretty much any sane person in the universe. Then you'll get them stacking up on you and hacking your phone. And that's what I'm going to get deep into about what their methods are and why they hide in social justice movements and tips programs. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's horrible. And I'm telling you something, it pisses me off. I'm really just trying to stay chill about it. But like, I got to tell you something. It's like I left my career because I knew something was wrong in the industry. Like, not necessarily the people that I worked with, because I was with a lot of talented people that I wish I could be with again, because I know they would care about this. But guess what? We are up against some really powerful people that steal, buy, and sell information. It's everything now. So I have to be the public face, and these other people have to stay by the sidelines. And so I just need to you guys to understand something. You need to sometimes have a little bit of faith that I'm doing the right thing. Just not anybody here, guys. I'm just not, and I'm not specifically to whatever. That I have to go about getting information distributed outbound on how this works sometimes in some kind of esoteric and a little bit unusual ways, admittedly. How and why do I do that? Why am I willing to look foolish sometimes? To keep people safe that protect me, protect our country, and who are scared of these people because they have good reason to be. We shouldn't be, though. We should be really pushing back and not letting them push us. But that does require a full, okay? So informationally, I want this to be something where I let you guys know, yeah, I take it personal. This bothers me. I didn't mean to interrupt the whole presentation, but it's just like, I know what I'm talking about. And there's not that many people, honestly, that have the amount of experience that I have, guys. I go all the way back to 1G. I've been tuning radios in the wireless industry since the first generation of analog cellular devices, and they had General Electric radios that were bigger than my freaking, like my chest. Like these things were massive radios that processed one call at a time. Then they had these huge amplifiers that were connected to them that processed one call at a time. And we had this big wall of these radios. And some of these cell towers could only process maybe 20 calls tops at a time. And they had these huge racks of them. And I had to take these little screwdrivers and tune the pots. They called them pots, potentiometers. Anyways, I had to tune these little things. And I had these meters hooked into them. And I would literally tune the frequencies and all the hertz and everything down to the minutia. And I'd lift up and the thing would float and I'd take it back down and the thing would float again. I mean, to a tech geek, this should all make sense. I've been working on these things that long. Since I was like barely like 20 years old, man. I was 22, 23 when I got into the serious technical parts of the wireless industry. I'm 47 years old now. That's a lot of time. Okay. So just letting you know, I know what I'm talking about. I don't like that I have to be the one that deals with it. I just need support. That's all. Okay? Just a little bit till it's over. And it will be over. They can't do this forever. It's got to get revealed at some point. And guess what? As weird as it might sound, I guess I'm the guy. Okay? But if you knew how horrible the people are that are like deep into this, guys, they're looking for high-speed data exploits that are anonymous and can be attributed to other people. Who is interested in that? What kind of people? Take a wild guess out there, guys. What kind of creeps are wanting high-speed data that are anonymous and not attributed to them and can be pushed onto somebody else responsibility-wise? What kind of people would that be, huh? Sorry, guys. They're creeps. And when they need what they need, they go to some extreme lengths to get it. Whether they're drug users, whether they're human traffickers, or they're child pornographers, whatever they are, they will go to extreme lengths. Now, there's that class. Then there's other people, guys, and I'm going to be real with you, that are just gun running and then processing their transactions electronically. I don't care what they're doing, honestly. Gun runners don't bother me. I know that sounds weird. Hang on. I honestly I'm not a big fan of the whole thing, but as long as you're not exploiting people, I don't really care. Just leave me out of it. Don't do it to me. Don't do it to my friends. Because I'm one of the few people that can help them figure it out. Don't do it to my friends. And I got some friends that are 10 times smarter than me. They just wait from the sidelines and they just have me just talk about what I'm learning. That's happening, whether people want to believe it or not. They just can't interface with me directly. I'm sure they would love to talk to me as much as I would love to talk to them, but we can't talk to each other. And this is what pisses me off right now about what I'm going through right now, because I don't need to be talking about this and I shouldn't be. I feel a little weak for doing it. I want to see my friends. I really do. But guess what? These people are horrible. And I'm, for whatever reason. So, since they take such great pleasure in being so obvious about it, look, what am I supposed to do? It ain't my fault. I really can't do anything about it. But it does provide the perfect beacon for the good guys to determine who's doing it, how they're doing it, when they're doing it, why they're doing it, and what lengths they'll go to, what means they go to. And that can all be identified by simply being near me. And then when I give out the cues as to what's happening, it's known. And then no one has to take on the risk of filing the report, being attributed to, following up on this or that or whatever. Yes, it sucks. But guess what, guys? When I went for the straight accountability route, it went all in my face, man. I went straight to the FBI. They don't care. Worse yet, they seemed intent on making sure that my life maintained in an even more miserable state. Now, I don't want to discourage people from reporting. I'm just letting you know, honestly, I used to be the kind of person that said, well, you have to report it. Now I'm the kind of person that says, I don't really know what to do. I really don't know that that's the right thing. But I don't discourage people, and I definitely wouldn't run away from a legal process, especially myself. Anybody who wants a witness, expert testimony, whatever you're looking for, I'm happy to do it. I can't self-fund it, honestly. If I ever could, I absolutely would. That's all. Aside from that, yes, I can research cases. I can actually look into things at a deeper level. I've actually gutted phones in my history. And I think that I've said it over and over, guys, if there's one thing I have is like a dream, I would form probably one of like, if I really just struck it big, I would form like a really good technical group, and I would turn them into freaking rock stars. They would be recognized for the talent that they possess, and people would know that they're not to be effed with. They would be like that, the kind of people that could swoop in on any technical situation that involved their interface hacks and be like, boom, gotcha, mother. Gotcha. Sorry, guys, I got a little upset. But it's just getting too personal. And I can't let anybody make me question my ability or question my sense of what's actually happening. It's been happening to me too long, and it gets too obvious. They are doing so many obvious things at this point. And yeah, it's really striking at my core right now because I definitely need to be able to independently earn a living. And when they're doing this kind of crap to me, it just damn near makes it impossible. So we've got to do something. And I'm definitely serious about it. So I just need to know, guys, I feel like I don't even really, at some point, the people that are on the sidelines have to just sort of say, yeah, Gabe, we're going to validate you. We're going to finally vindicate what you've been saying. Would you please do that, guys? Because I think the time has come. It's just to me at this point to I don't know what's being gained. If there's something to be gained, I apologize. And maybe I'm just putting too much pressure, but I don't know. Anyway, sorry for the rant, guys. Let me continue this presentation. I didn't mean to interrupt it that long. You knew I would, though, right?
Your app is reporting that you made $18, but in all actuality, you might have made 20, and you never even saw the 10% that they're taking. You understand what I'm telling you? That's the way that these new intercepts are working, and that's why they're becoming so much more aggressive. And I just observed it in areas that before where the traffic was pretty, controllable. It wasn't that big a deal. Now they have huge traffic patterns. I mean, seriously, there's places before that actually had it under control, and it wasn't that bad to get around. And now it's nearly impossible to get around certain roads. You're just like, wow, it's really strange the way it's working now. But it just seems like the more high profile information that you have, the more you're going to welcome this type of vehicular. It's a combination of things, guys. It's information warfare in some cases, and in most cases, they're doing both information warfare and directed energy. And so I have diagrams that are from both Cobham's internal documents for their intercept systems to kind of give you a rundown of how it works, how they can mimic cell towers, intercept your device. They can basically create a fake cell tower by having this software platform that hives into one unit, almost like it remotes into one master unit. So they'll park a car or something somewhere, and then a group of cell phone users can surround you and then push you onto their network through effectively just jamming you off of the cell tower. And then when your phone wakes up, it thinks it's on the cell tower, but it's really on the network of these surrounding users that have gotten close to you. This becomes even more menacing when you realize that mafias, I call them the mob bell. There's the mob bell, that's like the bell companies, the regular phone companies. Well, the mob bell are the Jeepers Creepers. They're the ones that have GPRS, and they creep up on you, jam you, using these types of devices to do information warfare. This is the new way that they're recruiting sex offenders to get them incentivized to harm people, giving them cryptocurrency in exchange for being a Jeepers Creepers. Okay. And there's all sorts of ways these people can accept money now, especially in the era of crypto. It makes it extremely easy for them to get away with things. And so you have vehicular ops that are driving around doing cell jamming. I can show you examples of where they hide the antennas. Now, you really need to pay attention to where these antennas are hidden, because they're going to place them in these bumpers, and I'll show you diagrams. These are real ones developed by Cobham and STI, and they're resting inside the bumpers. So what these cars will do, you'll notice sometimes, is if you're a high-profile person of interest and they want your information, they're going to try to place those antennas exactly where you see them in these diagrams, kind of by the wheel wells and the bumpers, because they have a series of things they do with these antennas. One is they do near-field communication. That's a 13.56 megahertz signal that does payment transactions. Now, they can use that to learn your identity, dope transactions, or even push, I'm told. I got this as a tip-off. I'm told they can do things as sophisticated as changing your preferred roaming list, your PRL, which would basically make it to where your phone doesn't understand the correct system identification numbers for the cell tower you're supposed to be on, which is how I think they make this whole thing work. Your phone is confused because the people that get close to you have spoofed the cell phone network, because say you're on Sprint or Verizon or AT&T. Just for example, guys, this isn't the real numbers. Say AT&T is system ID 00001, Verizon's 00002, and Sprint's 00003. They would just know, and they're the only ones that can have those numbers, okay? They would just know as the fake network that in order for your phone to believe that it's on Sprint, that's the 3, okay? They would just simply have to push what's called the preferred roaming list, this data set via the near-field communication into your phone, jams your phone, pushes that near-field communication hack in there. Your phone wakes up going, oh, I'm on Sprint right now, when it's actually on the cell phone of the Jeeper Creeper that just pushed the PRL and the NFC to your phone. It's extremely important for them to get close to you to do this, because it has to be almost the same factor as you walking up and doing Apple Pay to get your coffee at Starbucks or something, for example, how you tap your phone against it, or perhaps.
Yeah, let me talk really quick. The NFC aspect of this is huge with everything that they're doing. Near field communication, the fact that you load your credit cards into a wallet system that's like an encrypted system on an Apple iPhone, for example, is one exploit that they love, because then they can sort of mimic things that happen electronically on your phone by gaining access to the near field communication chip on your credit card, the tap it system that you might use to go on a thing up by the pump, go boop boop, or you slide your card in where the NFC chip is, and it holds it in there, goes and it reads that securely. They've been progressively leaving the whole magnetic striping system and moving into these other forms of encryption as if they're safer. No, guys, this has just made it incredibly easy for electronic pickpockets to just falsely attribute things, create mirrors of transactions, lag transactions, to where, I'll give you an example. If you're a pretty affluent person, say, for example, you're a person that has, more than $100,000 in the bank at any given time, and you tend to move money around in large increments, these people would absolutely find ways to exploit things, to just lag things that you do. I would say for those of you lucky enough to be whatever, you may want to look into that, because especially rich people that are like celebrities, because they would absolutely be handled. Like, I thought Britney was having this going on a long time ago, honestly. Seriously, I think this has been the whole reason why Britney is so heavily managed, because so many people are getting a cut of just getting percentages off of handling her and managing everything about her. And, they all get a cut by having the smartphone that's closest to Britney. That's all how it works, guys. It's just like Pokemon Go. Whoever is closest to the person that's the POI gets the money. They get the honey. And so, if it's whether it's handling a person that's of affluence, a celebrity, or whatever like that at this level, you have to think about it. The way that these people are wired, it's like they just think of it to them like, well, they don't care, because they figure that, this other person has something of what they need, blah, 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 you know. But you can understand how a person of affluence like Britney can wind up becoming a slave to a system like this, because the people around her would just be like, "One, no, 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 nothing like this could ever happen. Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is your, this is your manager. This is your." Look, I'm not going to get too personal on all those things, but eventually you just start noticing how aggressively handled your life is, and how people around you seem more like characters. That's not by whatever. I mean, that's not by mistake. It's because they have whole networks that just know how to stall, lag, delay, and steal money. And this NFC thing is a huge part of what they do. So a person like her that has so many transactions going in and out, you can literally turn lag of transactions into the ability to spend money for a person that has no money. They would simply stall or lag a transaction via these near field communication hacks, which are just like doing like they have devices and readers, guys. They can literally just aggressively over RF just sweep and read your NFC cards, or create transactions on your NFC cards that are in your wallet or whatever, Yeah. Yeah. Tell me about it. Yeah. And then to that effect, actually, here's a here's where the term gaslight, speaking of which, there, just so you know, the term gaslight, okay, here's an example of how it can happen to within your car. So you basically would take your smartphone, right? And then most cars nowadays, especially the newer ones, they have functionality involving Bluetooth, or just being able to plug your USB cable directly into the car, especially that one. All right. You're talking like they have these weird things now, guys, where they seem to be able to do data transfer car to car via Li-Fi and pulsed light. And so one car can pull up next to another car, and they can turn the car into basically doing things like turning on your radio resources on your smartphone, making you hive into surrounding devices temporarily, where they can basically use your IP address, stall your transactions, and use your money, things like that. Yeah, it does happen. Okay. And so, that's when you're like a person of affluence. Like for me, they just would use it for me. Like when I was in positions where like, I was living from day to day, and I literally, like, whatever money I made that day was basically going to be put into like staying someplace and getting a meal. Right. I mean, I was in that place for a while there. They would basically do things to me pretty aggressively just to make it to where I would really, really, really have to struggle or stay out a lot later and work in order to make enough money to get things done. And I could tell that my things were being hacked. I could tell they were taking percentages off. They were just completely artificial things they were doing, swapping a real name for a fake name. I would get a real order that would come in, it would get swapped for a fake ticket. I mean, all kinds of things like that were happening that I could see, just because a lot of times I can see the way that they swap it really fast. Like the real one would come in, then it would quickly get pushed down, and then a fake ticket got put in its place. Then I would get dispatched sometimes to places of people that hated me, like people that I've never met, but I knew where they live based on the research that I'd done on them and their companies. And then suddenly, even though some of these people I'd never even talked about publicly, they were literally having me getting dispatched near to where they could basically observe me from across the street or a place next door while I made the delivery. creepy. Things like that were happening to me, and then they would take a percentage of it as if and some of these people are just honestly that were doing this to me are filthy rich. Like the one case I just told you about was out in the Portland area. The guy that did this to me, he's like the heir to a major company, gets a trust fund on a monthly basis. I know a lot of personal things about the guy because I knew somebody knew him. And that's the kind of levels these people will go to when they just have it out for you. They have access to people that have hacking groups that can just do this to you indefinitely. And the FBI doesn't give a rat's ass, apparently. And I'm just letting you know, guys, like my Aunt Catherine was a Department of Justice Cybercrime Division attorney. Nobody in my family has any greater intellectual curiosity about my material. Maybe they're afraid of it too. I don't know, but it doesn't strike me as that being the case. Because when I look into like, well, where does this all go back to and lead back to and who and where and everything else like that. All I know is that I feel like there's a greater reason why I don't get a lot of internal assistance. So all I can do, folks, is just do my best to kind of just, really show you this material to the best of my ability. Let you know that it's not hopeless. I think eventually, once we get the right amount of awareness and everything like that and, resources, yeah, I bet you I could. I have no doubt that I could form a absolute rock star group that could just like, not only just handle these things, guys, but I'm serious. Like I would want it to be something that's damn near, we could make it into entertainment. Like I would want them to be somebody that would be like ghost hunters. I'd want these to be like frequency hunters, hack hunters. I want this to be freaking cool. I want somebody to be who does this to be considered a hero and to be considered a rock star. I'm not saying that for my own purposes. I really don't want to be that person, honestly, but I would like to establish a group of people much more talented than me that I know couldn't well, let me put it this way. I would want people almost that would have the ability to hoodwink a person like me, but would not. They would have the integrity levels where they would not do it. But I want them to be able to. Yeah. I want them to be able to trick me. Not want to, though. That's all. I want them to be talented. I want them to be able to come up with things that are sophisticated within the realms of radio frequency hacking in a white hat benevolent form. I just want to establish a group of white hats. How else do I put it? People that actually are real ones, guys. No coded language or anything else like that. When I use that term, sorry it was used by some of these movements or whatever, I'm talking about people that have the skill to hack, people that understand technology inside and out and could do a lot of damage if they wanted to, but don't want to. Okay. Like me, honestly, straight up, I know how to F up things within telecommunications. I do. If I wanted to be the worst person in the world and destroy something telecommunications wise, I would know all the central points and how to do it. Lucky for the wireless industry, I'm not that guy. I'm never going to become that insane. I'm not saying that in a cheeky way or anything like that, guys. I'm telling you that truthfully. But you need to have people though that have good intentions, that are benevolent, don't mind the scrutiny, and are willing to work in a larger group where their work is scrutinized and their knowledge set is scrutinized appropriately and respectfully, but held against, that it passes muster on a technical level. We have to have people where we've established a group because the FBI doesn't seem to be interested in doing it. And maybe the way we do it is just start off by turning it into entertainment. And I think that would be cool as hell, don't you? I mean, don't you think, guys, that we're in an era now where people kind of want to know deeper on how these things kind of work a little bit? And I think that if more people were smart about this, then the demand for these types of groups and the research into it and the investigators at a private investigator level or a private research level, like if somebody wanted an investigation into their own case, then yeah, I think you would get a lot of high profile people requesting it. They would be willing to pay a good amount of money to have it done for them. I do think that the business model is out there. But yeah, the startup on this is pretty, and it would have to be considerable, guys, because of the hardware investment. Even if you were to lease things, you'd have to have a pretty good amount of hardware to do this successfully, and the staff. That's all. All right. So getting into it, guys, this is just one way that like they can do it. NFC chips, the wallet function in your iPhone, to be very clear. When you load cards in, you're effectively it kind of clones that NFC functionality within your chip of your card to where that little chip, that silver thing or whatever, and the tap function that's in your credit card, it's now effectively that device has been imported into your smartphone. And so when you go up to a register and you select from your wallet, I want to use this card, or this card, and you select that one, it's kind of mimicking that NFC process where you go beep, beep. You know, you don't hear it, obviously. Sometimes you do, I guess, because it makes the verification reader says something, but usually it just happens and you get something back to your phone. It goes, and it says, hey, you just completed your transaction or something like that, right? I'm just letting you know that that's a handoff, a frequency process that hackers know how to exploit to either read information from your chip to learn who you are, or to falsify information relative to that information on that chip in order to, this is where I think a lot of people are ignorant and don't know what's happening, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of will to change it. It's that a lot of people, I think, are getting rich by just simply stalling and lagging money that is going between person to person, especially people that have a little bit more than average, but they'll do it to anybody. It's just, if you think about it, guys, to people, when they're trying to rationalize it to themselves and to the people on the outside as not being thievery, which it is, they simply tell themselves that, well, it's only being done to blah, 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 right? That kind of thing. No, guys. I mean, really, you really can't think that way. Seriously, because the problem is so many people began to have this sort of like notion in their minds that now it's become sort of like, you know, like, and people are desperate right now, especially. Yeah. They're making all kinds of rationalizations, and then like nobody's doing anything about it at the law enforcement level. So I'm just telling you guys, like, that's why sometimes I do things that are called full metal disclosure. And I've explained it pretty openly, what I do and why I do it. And so when I do full metal disclosures, I'm just going to give you an example. I do them in a lot of different ways, in small environments for very limited amounts of time. And sometimes I dedicate a whole week or two, sometimes even longer, to doing a full metal disclosure session. For example, I would take this type of material that I know gets shadow banned in a pretty significant way to the coast. I would gain the attention of a group of people that I know would be interested in it. They would be knowing that I would be spending time at a hotel or a house or a place wherever that would be close to a beach. And then I would make sure it was kind of in an inlet where you could watch from multiple rooftops, houses, hotels, restaurants, etc. And then I would open my window and I would make sure all my subtitles were as accurate as humanly possible in case there was any white noising of my voice. And I would just let this thing play on a big screen television in a hotel room, usually like a 45 to 55 inch television set that would be like in some of these rooms where I could get a discount. It was like off peak. And then I would put this big image up there and I would play hours, I mean, hours of disclosure material and technical presentations and everything relative to these topics. And just like I'm doing for you right here, right now, if I ever felt like I could contribute something else to the discussion or add something to it, then I would just simply pause it. Then I would begin orating things. Now, am I insane for doing that? Or is that some pretty brilliant strategy when you really get down to it? Because I've had people suggest to me that that's not sane, or it doesn't appear that way. Okay. So I need that to be, I'm not trying to be a jerk about this. I'm trying to explain that this is how you keep people safe in the modern era of the way they tend to go after people who help you. Ask people who've kind of like been helpful to me. I mean, a lot of times they wind up kind of going like, I really feel like I'm being trolled a little bit more than average now. It's like, well, I'm sorry, you know, all I can tell you is I'm not doing it, but I understand, you know. And so, you know, what I would like us to do, I guess, is just to the best of our ability, those of us who've kind of figured out what this is and what's going on, is just to try to get as many of our intellectual, our thinking heads together as much. I mean, even the things that we can't afford to do, that we're at least sharing ideas and discussing things and answering one another's questions to the best of our abilities. Okay. So sorry to get too preachy on this one or whatever, guys. I'm just explaining to you that with that method I told you about that I do on coastlines, I will sometimes do in very limited environments if I feel like the timing is right to where no one's really going to notice it at a significant level, what I'm doing, but the right people will notice it and will have the ability to listen in and be able to take in the information and maybe gain awareness about like what my channel is, where they can find my clip in case it's been shadow banned and that kind of thing. And sometimes by getting close to me, they can use the same methods as the malevolent hackers, the black hats. They can use the same methods to gain access to my device and then read things and whatever else like that and learn something about how it's all working too. So yeah, and yeah, there to your point. Yeah, rest in peace, John McAfee, says Drew there. Yeah, I agree. You know, John McAfee was another person that really understood these smartphone hacks at a very significant level. And man, did he have some information that really, like, it was so bizarre that right around the time that I was really just intuitively figuring out what was going on with some of the things, and not even intuition, guys, like, even though I didn't see the physical app that was doing it and everything, if you've been doing frequency things and if you've been around frequencies that transmit and you know, constantly, it's like you develop a sixth sense about how it all works. I spent 2 decades around every frequency band. I need you to understand how deep this runs. Like, I had a backpack that was strapped to me like the Ghostbusters that ran every frequency in the wireless industry simultaneously while I ran around buildings testing the signals, just to see how strong those signals were in all these different buildings. I did that the last 2 years of my career. You want to talk about a person that just, like, their body is tuned into frequencies at a very intense level? It happened to me whether I like it or not. I mean, this is something that's just a part of my DNA now. I can tune in. I can figure it out. Can't help it. And I would say that if you're a good guy, good gal, whatever, a person that's really trying to solve this problem, then you must know what a great ally I am, because I can actually get you most of what you need as far as figuring it out on the front end, and then the people that have more sophistication on how to, like, take care of the rest of it can do it, and they need to, because I want to rest from it. Number one, I want to rest myself, and I want somebody arrested. Yeah, because that needs to happen. Somebody manufactured this. Somebody created all this crap. And hell, if I'm not saying that it was like people like my big brother, but I do feel like there seems to be like a moral obligation for him. This is just my personal opinion. He can disagree with me gladly. And, you know, I won't say that he's a bad person for disagreeing, but I believe that my brother being in the National Security Directorate and having as much access to SAIC at the beginning of his career, who I believe is involved, the same way that I would want somebody for me to get involved if they believe the company that I was with was involved with some shenanigans relative to their repurposing of a technology or the wireless industry. And by the way, guys, no one ever made that accusation about my company specifically, but I did volunteer to sort of leave my career and research all these things for the last 5 years. And I didn't expect that it would be incredibly lucrative, but I did actually feel like by this point, I would be kind of self-sustained to where I could actually, you know, even if I wasn't like doing as good as I was in the wireless industry, I thought by now that the advocacy work, consulting and things like that would have picked up, but it just never got to that point. And, you know, but that doesn't mean that it's impossible to solve the problems, guys. But all right, let me continue this presentation though, because I keep interrupting it and it's important to get through. So I'll be right back.
When you go in and you do, you wave your card across the pump at the gas, it's that type of connection. But see, what they're doing is they're amplifying that to a larger degree, trying to force the transaction from a little bit larger distance. So instead of you having to like get close to it, this is making it to where you can only have to be maybe a foot or two or a few feet to push the NFC transaction. Then they create what are called gateways with cars. So I'll show you like in a diagram here, what they can do is that you're driving down the road, they can set up these cell jammer cars, get next to you. Now, they can learn all kinds of things. They can do an NFC sweep that can learn the information on your cards, and that can verify your identity. And then if they can jam your cell phone, yeah, now your phone wakes up, it's on their network, and they can learn everything about you. What are you saying? Who are you saying it about? It's all going to appear on their phones. They're going to learn it about you. So that's what I call the mob of Bell and the Jeepers, the GPRS creepers. Okay, the Jeepers creepers. Because they're really hiring some creepy people to do this. if you think about it, it's pretty masterful because it creates data corruptions. You're suddenly surrounded by people that are of questionable integrity, and their mobile identifiers are all around you, and so it kind of makes you look like one of them. It's kind of a guilt by association ploy to make you look like another creep, you know. Now, what makes it even more disturbing is if these predators, a lot of them are sex offenders, they get recruited into this network that they're called Jeepers Creepers that run these devices. They can literally make their actions look like your actions. Now you look like the creep that they really are. Just something to consider, guys, because it's a pretty disturbing series of hacks that these people have access to. And so what this is effectively a kind of like an exploit of the intelligent transportation system, which is designed basically to do car-to-car communication using smart cars and things like that to give traffic warning. So like, you know, areas that have much higher congestion, Los Angeles, for example, or New York, it kind of just does things to where it is going to start communicating via wireless interface between the street lights and the cars, and it's going to make it to where allegedly it's supposed to work this way, but we have yet to see the tangible results that it does. That is supposed to make traffic, you know, run smoother, where there's going to be fewer places where cars actually have to stop because the smart grid is going to be properly assigning the right intervals to the right lights to where people aren't going to be waiting, you know. That's actually possible, yet for some strange reason it doesn't seem to come to fruition. But anyways, the point would be that now that would be the mob bill, would be not only the information warfare, but also the energy warfare. And so this is where it gets even more sinister because, you know, they like to do.
All right. So here's the whiteboard that I kind of drew up a little bit earlier. Sorry, I'm not a great artist here, but I just want to give you like a quick rundown on some of this as far as cell jamming goes. All right. So if you're in your car, for example, right, you're going down the road, part of the way this works is, so say your cell phone's plugged into your USB port inside your car, especially, right? And you know, the cell tower is just off the side of the highway over here. There's quite a few cell towers about every half mile to a mile or so anymore, right? Especially when you're in like heavily populated areas. When you get into rural areas, they're spread out more, like 5, 10, 20, even 30 miles out, because you don't need as many out there. I know I used to do rural tower design, and sometimes our cell towers are even spread 30 to 40 miles apart, and they could actually function like that in 800 megahertz bands, but that's neither here nor there. Anyways, so you're driving down the road. That's what this is right here. And the tower is sending a signal down to your car, right? Where your cell phone's plugged into your USB adapter, for example. All right. So what I'm telling you is that cars will get in front or the side. Sometimes, say, for example, you're in like a congested area where there's a lot of pedestrians and restaurants. One of their latest methods I've observed is kind of doing like the fake homeless guy thing, where a whole group of them will like be in color coded shirts and working different intersections where they're doing these hacking methods. They're not real guys. I'm sorry. The ones that I'm seeing don't even have like a vague appearance of being genuinely homeless. Like a couple of them look like they're kind of passing for it, but most of them just kind of are out there dancing and just like shuffling around and doing crap like that. They're pretty well dressed. They just seem like they're just doing cell jamming, quite frankly. And I know that sounds like one of those classic things like, hey, what the hell's wrong with you? You don't believe that people are genuinely homeless? Of course I do. Yeah, of course I do. I know for a fact. But what I'm telling you is that these types of systems are basically there to, well, let me do this really quick. So when you're going down the road, right, you should be getting your cell phone tower right here. There's usually like a few sectors. That's why there's a triangle with the two things here. It's like two antennas and then each sector, right? So one's pointing at the highway. You're supposed to get the radio frequency signal from the tower. What these intercepts are designed to do, though, is they kind of pull up and they aggressively kind of make this link. It overpowers this link from the tower to where when they get in front of you, they're kind of doing this. They're just aggressively hammering you a signal from this way. And they might have somebody like over on this side doing something very similar to just going boom, 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 boom. And the point is to break this link from the tower and for it to go into this device first, right? And so instead of it being a direct link, what your phone will now do is go from here into the jammer phone, which could be there or over there or both of them at the same time. And then the jammer phone is the one that winds up um, uh, taking your traffic and then pushing it back to you and then pushing your traffic back out to the tower on a time delay. Okay, it's done via lag. Sorry, that doesn't look like the word lag, does it? But let me get the smaller marker so it makes more sense. This is done via time delay lag. So they lag your network. And because everything that you do is data nowadays, this is all done while you're driving down the road. It just jams your signal, time delays it. Usually, like I've noticed with me, they've pretty much got me on a 1 minute delay from the get go from when I turn on my phone when it comes to data. So they're effectively swapping my experience that's on the hard drive of my phone with a cloud image that they're jamming. They send me a separate image that isn't even my phone. They give me the illusion that I'm connecting to the cell phone network when I'm actually connecting into one of their intercept phones that they always must have within a close proximity. Otherwise, they cannot get away with it. They've always got to have some of these within feet. Otherwise, this would not work. Hence, why some people wind up getting followed, quote, stalked, or quote, targeted. There's a lot of terms for it, and please don't use them inside this room. I already did as much as I would care to have them used. If you use those terms in here, I'm going to have to like delete the comments because it brings artificial intelligence crap in here that I don't like. It'll literally bring in all kinds of algorithms that'll suddenly say, "Hey, we got some fresh heads here," so please don't use those terms. But sorry to be picky about that, guys. It's just the reality. But you're typically supposed to make your phone link directly from your phone to the tower. So all I'm telling you is what this intercept effectively does is it breaks the link to the tower, makes you link to the phone that's the hacker phone. You are basically in a loop of data with them that they can control both your phone and push information onto the drive of your phone. Now that information is attributed to you data packet wise, then it gets put out over the tower. And this is all done by time delay, making you think you're experiencing one thing, but you're really on a delay. You're actually experiencing data delay that they're causing, making you believe your experience is happening in a real time when it's actually being delayed by about a minute or so over the data stream. Okay. That in that delay time, they do all their financial transactions. They use you as a mule, as a patsy through this elaborate jamming. And guys, not all these people are like sickos. Some of them are really just people that are like wanting to buy guns or maybe some like harmless drugs in some cases. And they're trying to just have it attributed to somebody else. And they perceive this as a harmless way to mule the transaction on a stranger in a way that they won't detect and won't really harm them, but in all actuality does do a lot of harm because it's just become kind of an epidemic as far as I can tell. This is really common, especially in environments like, well, if you're near the DC area, I'm sure this is happening at a very large scale. Okay. Now, there's another methodology that this can happen to, guys. Sorry about this mess over here. Let me kind of switch the camera down to this. Try to get kind of that crap out of there. This looks sloppy. All right. I have to draw it all again. All right. So there's the tower. They were doing road work. Okay, there we go. All right. So the other method is Li-Fi, where effectively another car, let me get this over to here. Then Li-Fi would be like another car kind of pulls up just behind you, like right here. And then they line up the headlamps like right here and here. And then you have this transmit receive path that's done over Li-Fi. Again, this is one of those things that I was given as a tip that is capable of happening when they add like a physical layer card somewhere between the USB port and a special bulb that can interpret data. And so they have another exploit that they're using to pass data over the infrastructure within the power infrastructure using what's called Ethernet over power. And so Ethernet over power is another thing that integrates with the concept of Li-Fi. Li-Fi is kind of like Wi-Fi, wireless, networks, but it's done with light. And I can show you a whole presentation on that here in a little bit. It's basically light transmits it to a bulb, a special like receiver inside a phone. And so the way I think it works actually is that you have a different path for transmit than receive in some cases. And so maybe the USB port and the standard wireless transmission is handling like the transmit, and the receive is all being done via light transfer. I don't remember exactly how this all works, guys, because I'm not an expert in it. But I know it involves some degree of being able to transmit, even in some cases, over these smart light posts. They're able to use pulsed light, and a person can hold a device underneath the smart lamp or the smart light and be able to transmit files back and forth between the light, or the light can simply send the files down to the phone, which it can receive. Trippy, right? But that's actually a thing that can happen, and I can show you a whole presentation on it. But some of the car hacks that are happening are really just this way where the cars themselves establish links where they do this cell jamming thing over the air interface, but then they themselves will hive their cars together like a train and then just stack like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. They go all the way back, like they're like a railroad cars, but they do it instead of them being linked together on the railroad track. They're linked via Li-Fi and other forms of hiving radios together. That's one method that's more sophisticated and newer, and you'll usually only find in the luxury cars. The older ones will be using like Wi-Fi meshing, where they, for example, like one car gets on 5 gigahertz, this car gets on 5 gigahertz, the other car gets on 5 gigahertz. Then they form what's called a Y-mesh together, where they're on one network that's like on one hotspot together. And then they cell jam a nearby car and then use their private network that they're pushing data on together to force that packet of data over that Patsy Mule device's phone. And then it goes on to the cell tower network. So it's attributed to, the Mule device here that gets hacked. Then these cars run the train of data into the hacked device, then push it out over the tower. And so these guys might be doing something this as harmless as relatively harmless. Maybe they just bought guns with Bitcoin, right? At some gun thing, and they don't want it to be like known. And it was like a few $100 purchase. All right, who cares, right? I don't know, man. I'm not that big of a whatever. Maybe somebody bought some drugs or whatever. Again, dude, these aren't things that I support or advocate. But again, when people want to get away with doing money laundering, they find sophisticated ways to do it. I think actually that McAfee kind of knew about this and he did kind of help people probably do the things for like drugs and things like that, would be my guess. I don't think that McAfee was a horrible guy, but my guess is he got his hands a little bit dirty in some of these things. And that's why he might have known a lot about it, but not necessarily. I mean, I think he definitely knew how to like launder money. And he did talk significantly about this concept of Li-Fi. So it's funny that somebody mentioned that, because I remember when I saw that he talked about Li-Fi and talked specifically like, you want to know how I do what I do? Private networks, Li-Fi. And he was like, I was like, my mind was blown when I heard him talked about this, So, yeah. So the Noises says, here, hang on really quick. Noises says is Li-Fi phased array technology. There's a lot of stuff that's done with phased array tech, beamforming technology, using light as a speaker, microphone, camera, etc. Yeah, you got it. That's basically it. And Bluetooth mesh network, okay, that's another method of doing it. Amazon Sidewalk, I'm not familiar with that, but yeah, Bluetooth meshing, any type of Y meshing, any ways of like forming another network. Um, hang on here. Yeah, any ways of forming like another one network from another network. Yeah, I mean that's basically what you're talking about. So you're getting the basics of it, okay? So let me put this back on really quick and then I'll start whiteboarding again and getting deeper into frequencies and things like that. But hopefully what I just told you, like people who say like what are they doing when they get close to me? This is at the root of it if you ask me. And then I'll be whiteboarding more later because I'm going to get into like why do some of the social justice movements and the tips programs have such horrible exploits. So one is like groups like Antifa, like what are they really doing out there? It's a lot of this, guys, but it's done on public streets in a way that reels in their enemies to gain intelligence on them in a really sophisticated way of trolling, guys. That's why their behavior is so extreme. It just gets everybody to come down there and go like, I'm fighting this. Well, guess what? You're getting baited. You're getting baited into their information trap, and then they're going to just start messing with you aggressively. And guys, if you think they weren't doing these information sweeps and things like that, and this aggressive type of hacking on all types of like political events, if you think that these groups weren't targeting people like were like Trump supporters, for example, and things like that, I mean, yeah. I mean, yeah, I have to be straight up with you guys. There would have been a time where I would have considered that to be paranoid conservatism to say that those people would be targeted in that way. Not now. I would never ever accuse a person, especially from that realm that's on the more conservative end, from making this accusation or feeling like this is happening to them and that it was for that reason in particular. Yeah, the technocracy really is way more willing to look the other way when you're conservative. That's the thing that I've learned. They're just like to them it's like one, well, it's so they were so effective at sort of demonizing people that supported some of what Trump did or just were at least fighting having a Clinton presidency, let alone a Biden Harris one. They really demonized a lot of these people, and the technology hacks are a big part of what makes that a reality and what makes it way easier to do to them. So I guess I get a little bit concerned because I don't feel like there's enough people that are being advocated for. So, I mean, I have my own problems and I definitely need to be more concerned about them more times than not. Um, but what I mean to say though is that, I just feel like like the ability to sort of break down the technology and explain it to people in a way where like you have to do it in repetition and you have to do it in a way where you really give people a lot of visuals. You really show them like aggressively like what you're talking about until they just get it and they learn it and they know it and they kind of go, okay, now I know we have to do something. Now I get it, and we're going to put the resources into it. And of course, I volunteer myself for that because, guys, I want to help and I need some freaking work. And I can't really go back to doing wireless like I used to. I guess I could, but do you guys want that? Does anybody in here want me to go back to the wireless industry? Because I'm just letting you know that's really kind of the options that I'm going to wind up being forced into. It's because it's going to be that or I'm not going to be able to achieve the goals that I need to relative to whatever, guys. So I'm just being real with you. It's not like I'm dying to go back in, but the thing I've learned is doing this, I can't sustain it. I can't. And I'm not a sellout, but I can't starve and I can't have anything, anyone, or anybody else that would depend on me to have to do that either. And so I'm always like totally willing to help out. And I really want to make sure this all gets solved. And I really want people that are, look, guys, I do a lot of what I do because I just became a very aware that a couple years ago, people that were, whether they were active or they were vets that were doing it, they were just people that seemed to have some higher level military experience that were aware of the information that I was trying to disseminate, knew that the FBI was not doing anything about it. And that's the problem, guys. Do you understand? Do people in this whole place understand that if you will not get the FBI to do something, it basically stonewalls anything that I'm doing and anything that I've uncovered? Once the FBI has made the decision that they're not going to listen and is not going to do anything about it, they can stall, lag, kind of like the way these networks operate electronically, stalling and lagging. Geez, FBI, I'm starting to wonder who's doing this because it kind of feels like you. I'm just saying. It kind of feels like it is the FBI in tandem with the Department of Energy doing infrastructure hacks involving Ethernet over power, hiving things into private Wi-Fi over that Ethernet over power, having air interface hacks that basically steal traffic from all over the place, like on smartphones, Wi-Fi routers, and everything, and then hiving it into central locations over Ethernet over power. That's the easiest way I can explain it, guys. That power lines are truly what do you want to call it? Have the ability to transmit data. So that's so bizarre that you say it's a Pearl Jam, Lisa. Seriously, and I know that it's oh my god, I'll have to tell you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's actually a lot of meaning to that. Actually, that has like so much meaning. Actually, and I was just talking earlier today about how there was a street that was named Jeremy, and I don't want to get too much deeper into that topic, but I was just telling this story earlier today about the kind of power people close to me have to like fictionalize things. They literally had a street name changed to a person with the first name Jeremy. I'm not going to say the last name because it would be too controversial for me to say here what I know. But it effectively involved like they moved to this town just outside of Portland that they'd never lived in before, and then it turns all occulted as hell, and the street in front of the fire department changes its name to something involving Jeremy. I'll put it that way. Like Jeremy spoke in class today. You have to guys have to remember what that song's about. That song, like that they make that joke, that's literally about like that, he's this tortured boy that because he doesn't get listened to winds up acting out and like, killing like a bunch of school kids and everything like that. Something, by the way, that I would never do. But do you guys understand that what they're doing with electronic weapons by denying people justice, denying them process, denying them any sense of like, satisfaction that the feds are doing anything, and then coming at these people aggressively with electronic weapons, tasing guns? I mean, it's happening to me right now, just so you know. They're just stacking up right here on the fence line right outside my window. And it's literally going as I'm trying to give you this presentation. It's aggressive. And they get away with it right here, surrounded by military personnel that are like right next door. Seriously, there's like military people here across the way, next door, over there, and everybody's just watching it. They're watching it. Is something wrong here, guys? Do you guys understand that like I'm near right now? I'm near like if you had any idea how much military and intelligence I was surrounded by in America, this should be the one place that once this is all disseminated, that the solution should come to us like that if the people here have the kind of talent that they claim. I don't say this out of any whatever, guys. I appreciate everybody who served. I genuinely appreciate your service. Thank you very much. If I didn't give enough accolades on Veterans Day, please let me tell you now, I appreciate your service. But I also think that this really is the time to demonstrate that once we have effectively established a case that the FBI has not only ignored evidence, but is a part of the problem, this is when the military does have the permission to step in. Do they not? All right. So, to those of you who have criticized my methods historically, whether current, past, present, in the future, you must know that when the FBI doesn't listen and my only recourse is to talk to the military, I obviously can't just go over to an office constantly and make reports to them and go like, "Hi guys, it's me, Gabe. I'm here just to give you another fresh report." How am I supposed to do that without getting somebody else put on this directed energy thing? Because guys, they're literally just parked right out here doing it to me right now, aggressively pounding my skull while I'm trying to talk to you. And they get away with it. It's almost like things are just sort of like pre-set up to where like no matter what I do and where I go, somebody's always allowed to tase my skull. So I'm very familiar, guys, not only with the smartphone hacks, but all the direct energy things. I am very, very, very vested and interested in finding a solution to this. But yeah, we do have to get together in a meaningful way. All of us who are super serious, we've got to make something happen sooner than later because to me, it is absolutely war. This is like a silent war that these malevolent child trafficking, junky, disgusting pieces of shits have started a civil fucking war. And I promise you, I will be part of shutting them down. I have already began severely putting dents into every single thing that they do. It must be finished. I do not want to do this indefinitely. I don't want to be doing this for the rest of my life. I have no intention of dealing with all this technology crap indefinitely. I would like to get rid of having smartphones altogether for a really long time. For me. Everybody else wants to have them, knock yourselves out. I want to go be in a place where I never have to look at another one of these stupid pieces of shit ever again. Because I'm sick of it. I'm sick of having to stare at one, give it my face, give it my thumbprint, give it my fucking identity, tell it everything about me. I'm tired of them. And to anybody who thinks I'm that interested in them, no, I could give two fucking shits about technology. I'm tired of it. I don't want to go back to fine tuning it and making it all work better. But I might have to because no one wants to hire me to do this. Or do they? Because an absent of me winning the lottery or something like that, which I don't know, may or may not happen. Who knows? I guess I got to play to make that happen. But I mean, guys, I will never give up on this as far as like, whatever. But I have been made aware that this is not going to go on forever and that people are paying attention. So all I'm ever asking for from anyone is just the sort of like just to have a little bit of trust and patience that a person who has my level of wireless industry experience and knows the technology inside and out the way I did, who's gone to as many places as I have, including military recruitment offices, military check-in installations, FBI offices in Portland, as well as the Las Vegas, Nevada one there off of the Lake Mead area. It's off of Lake Mead Boulevard area, kind of by Mount Moriah, I think, is there, and it's right behind a Starbucks and a Del Taco and a McDonald's. Okay, I went there many times and gave them my information to their cameras in the back because I just learned that the FBI, when you go there directly, I thought maybe they were just intimidated by the mafia themselves. Honestly, guys, that's how freaking naive I was. No, the FBI isn't intimidated by the mafia. The FBI is a wing of the mafia. They manage it as much as they are it. They manage cartels as much as they are cartels. Cartel figureheads are really just character actors. They're just puppet crisis actors. And it's being run by people at high level intelligence agencies managing drug flow, managing human trafficking flow. That's why these problems are not being solved. That's why they're not being solved. Just admit it, FBI. Worthless at law enforcement. What you're doing is crime management. I repeat, the FBI is worthless at law enforcement. They are excellent at crime management. I repeat, the FBI is worthless at law enforcement. They are excellent at managing cartels with crisis actors. But they couldn't do it without the technology hacks, the infrastructure hacks, and being able to take out all of their competition via information flow, which is done via Ethernet over power. What I mean to say is, guys, every single time you plug your phone into the wall, that's where I'm going to transition to this other article really quick. Every time you plug your phone into the wall, you're actually making a connection to the Ethernet over power. I'm not going to whiteboard it because I already did it on this. I did it crudely on this piece of notebook paper, but I'm going to play you this presentation really quick. And if you need me to explain it more, I can. But I'm going to do this really fast, and I'll be right back.
Had I don't know, everything kind of clicked into place here on how this hack is working. So I wanted to explain it to you really quick. So this is kind of a crude drawing, but basically I think I know how the hack is occurring where they're able to back up smartphones via the power grid and a Wi-Fi network that's used kind of by the power company and the Department of Energy to do like to monitor like power usage around the country. But I became aware, and I can actually back this up with documentation because I've actually seen it. I was studying smart meter radio frequency impact because a lot of people would bring that issue up to me, and I was trying to find out like what was the actual emissions of smart meters, and that's how I learned about their other communication network. Okay, so basically, say you're in a motel. Okay, you are in a property potentially where this is happening. You plug your iPhone USB in, and for that matter, this would also work if you had your MacBook, like a mag adapter, because there's mechanisms through which this also works through. They can do Ethernet over power. Look that concept up if you're not familiar with it. Ethernet over power. Okay. So iPhone, you plug your USB into your little white square, which is, like this. Okay. That would be like how you plug it in. And then the other side obviously goes into your phone, right? So as soon as this plugs into the
Yes, those are the orange walls of a Motel 6. I stayed in some pretty classy places, guys.
the back of your iPhone, this is what happens. Now, you make the connection into your power outlet. What you don't know now is that this power outlet is now Ethernet over power. So I think this is how they're doing it, and I think they're using insiders that are part of this Jeepers Creepers network that recruits pedophiles and sex offenders to kind of do their dirty work in informational warfare, electronic weapons, doping of evidence, and things like that. Because what they're doing is, when you plug this in, your phone is a hard drive. Your hard drive is now being backed up on Ethernet over power. I realize this because I've been in some areas lately where I'm going, why do I have such a hard time getting power to my phone when I plug into the outlet? Because it's trying to synchronize to a server. See, it's not, if it's just power, right, it would be consistent everywhere you go. It would always have problems, you know what I'm saying, starting up, but it's only in certain locations where this happens. I notice that it can't synchronize immediately. So I think what's happening is your power outlet is providing an internet, an IP route between this power outlet to the smart meter. Now, the smart meter has a 2.4 gigahertz and a 5.8 gigahertz Wi-Fi transport that's used by both the power company and the Department of Energy, okay? Now, they do this to monitor power readings, to do things that, these are the power poles, sorry about my crude drawing, but they use this network basically to monitor the meter, and they no longer have to go right up to your house to read it. They can just do it all wirelessly and through a central grid that all goes back to, the DOE, the power company, whoever, and they can all see it. But see, here's where the Jeepers Creepers got the hack through the pedophile network, I think. These ops, which oftentimes will blend in as InfraGard, where they're pretending they're doing like FBI surveillance or whatever, they're in these hack cars, and some of these are actually designed by Cobham, C-O-B-H-A-M. You can buy fully rigged F-150s and Toyota like Tundras or Tacomas or something like that. I mean, I actually have white papers on these guys where they're for sale, and these are just electronic warfare hacking vehicles, effectively, that can drive around. They're pre-outfitted with all the antennas built into them, and I've seen these all over the place, guys. I'm just telling you. And this is what I think is going on right now, and this is their exploit into people's smartphones. So these hack cars can literally tap into this smart meter, which, since it's Ethernet over power, guys, where is this all going back to? Well, this is the big question mark. Who is getting it from the smart meter? Where is that server? Where is it housed? My guess is it's probably somebody at DOE or a power company or a combination of all these. I don't know for certain though, guys, but based on the relationships that I've seen historically, I think this is how, when you hear people say like, I'm certain they have my smartphone, they do. And they can pretend to be you by driving these hack cars around. Since they have a clone of your phone, they have your SIM card hacked, and they can just drive around pretending to be you because you're geo-referenced by your GPS location in your phone, which you cannot turn off even if they tell you you can. All right. So I just kind of wanted to let you know, guys, this is kind of like how Jeepers, the GPRS Creepers works. What I think their exploit is to the central grid, how they're able to tap into this Wi-Fi link. The Wi-Fi goes into their smart cars, or they can just tap in through the smartphones. Now they have drives on their smartphones where they can literally tap into the cloud, look into your phone, make your phone push to their hack car. So literally, like even though your phone is like right here, right? It looks like it's right here. And then they can just follow you and then that fools and spoofs the geo-referencing, because that's a big part. Like, if people are like know you're a high profile person, they're a person of interest or whatever, and they're still trying to spoof your network or dope it or learn what you know that in an undetectable way, this is the best route they have. Every single time you plug your phone in, you have to do this. Okay, and they can basically clone your image, look at it through the hack cars. They have your password, because you always leave traces of what you do behind, by tapping in your password or whatever. Click, 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 click. Different tones. Those tones alone, guys. Whether you're at a pin number thing at the bank, or you're tapping it in at your grocery store, your pin number. Have you ever noticed that the tones are different? Okay, well, somebody can literally just listen to each one of those tones and know exactly what numbers you're pushing. So it's like there's so many things that are designed to trick you into thinking you have security that you don't really have. And this is why I wanted to show this to you today. So thank you for watching, and I'll try to develop something that's a little bit neater than this, but I wanted to get the idea out today. Thanks.
Wow, guys, I'm sorry. Like, I might need somebody to extract me from this shit. Seriously, this room is freaking vibrating. I don't know what the hell this is going on right now, but it is literally making the chair vibrate, the floor vibrate, my skull's vibrating. So I'm going to try to like plug through this. I might have to put a 10 unit on or something like that to get through it, because this is like making my entire body shake. It's making me like feel like I have Parkinson's. Like, I feel like I'm going to like start to shake, like, like aggressively. And it's all coming from this really loud humming thing coming outside, parked by the fence line between the fence and this office building that I think has some shady things going on with it. So I don't know. All right. So let me try to get back into my, yeah, I need my blankie. Yeah, something like that. I have it right here, actually. So I might actually do something like that to reduce some of the impact on it, because it actually does help when I sit on it and wrap it around my shoulders. So I might do that here in a second. Let me, guys, that's actually no joke, because if you have a good wool blanket, it probably is one of your best defenses. There's a couple of things that help. Number one, if you're looking for just something that shields against RF specifically, that's like leather actually does that, is a good shield against RF. That's why the Nazis always had those SS uniforms that were head to toe in leather, was a lot of the radio frequency and EMF experimentation that they did at the high level of esoteric research that they were doing within the Nazi party. The Bell, all that type of things, all involved high levels of rotational magnetic fields and various concepts of, occulted energy concepts, real energy concepts. So they needed shielding, and that's why they wore the leather. But I mean, if you're looking for something that's just sort of like, to me, like the wool blanket thing is where you're actually taking the bioplasma transfer from within your body, and it's helping sort of like self heal a little bit, especially if you can stay like in a if you can maintain your mind state a little bit and at least try to elevate it to know that you can get through whatever it is. That's really half of it, because there's a spiritual component to the way energy transfer works. So even right now, I'm telling you, like, this is aggressive and it doesn't make me happy. But the thing that I know is that even though it's happening, I have to be here, like, just be chill and kind of go like, all right, this is happening, but you know what? Gonna get through it. And I've felt this before. I know what it is. And my mind is stronger than anything external. My internal brainwave can actually overcome and overpower these things. This helps a lot too, by the way. What I do is because it involves basically shaking me with something piezoelectric. I have this, and if you have like these types of the earbuds that especially have this type of plug, these are extremely effective at like filtering out some of the more aggressive things. Even if you're not using them as your wireless headphones or your whatever, you can use that same type of plunger method. Or if you have like the airlines, those ones that they give away, yeah, do that. I mean, just snip off and then plug them in and everything like that. They make really good earplugs that can filter out some pretty significant piezo responsive tones that can be very agitating, like what's going on right now. Quite frankly, it's bad. So all right, let me get my head back into this. I was doing a present because like that's part of what it does. It just like shakes you to the point where you can't really even think straight. So all right, hang on really quick here. Sorry. Hey guys, sometimes I find out, like you think that I don't know. All right. Yeah, you know something, wool socks. That's a good idea, actually, having more wool socks on hand. Thank you, noises. Yeah, because I do actually have historically had them. Currently, I don't. I lost a lot of that in the fire, but now that you made that as a put that idea back in. Yeah, yeah, that's a really good thought. But yeah, wool blankets, wrapping them around your body is very effective at basically what it does is it takes the orgone, the bioplasma, the bions from your body, and it retransmits them back into your body. It adds like a layer of sort of like recirculation of your life energy, even when something's aggressively sort of pummeling you. This does like because like it part of like what electromagnetic directed energy things that are more sophisticated do is it's anti-life. It's really just turning your light switch off and on aggressively by buzzing you like that. It's because you're doing this. Right? Human life is an analog waveform constantly flowing like this. So these repetitive interruptions at that and the vibratory level are designed simply as anti-life, just to chip away and take seconds off your life, minutes, years, days, whatever. It's not done without that intention, and that's why there has to be more things like the Geneva Convention, for example, things relative to the use of these types of methodologies that are being completely disregarded right here on American soil while I'm surrounded by, I guess, some of the brightest and best in the military and intelligence circles. So I hope that those of you who are proud of America and your servitude take notice of that, and maybe you might want to learn more about what's going on around here, because I'd be happy to share it. It's pretty bad. And the consequences behind what some of these people are engaged in could be very serious. Just need you to understand it. It's getting pretty serious at this point. So we need to get we need to get our act together. Not act, but those of us who understand what the hell's going on. This is some pretty serious things I'm telling you here. And so I can promise you what I'm telling you about the way that they jam radios and everything like that. The whole point of giving me direct energy tonight is to teach me a lesson to not discuss with you what they do to all of your technology. They're hacking a lot of us. They're stealing from us. They're preventing us from hearing from people that might actually want to talk to us by jamming our networks. They're not allowing us to access others that we would normally talk to by jamming our networks. They've done it to me in the past. I once had a family member that was this close. Then I wasn't able to. And then after they passed on, they did something to my phone to make it completely break down so I couldn't even use anything. It was just humiliating, the kind of crap that they like to do to me at a technology level right when I need it the most. And here I am. So I have a brother that was at Leidos and, well, its precursor, SAIC. Do you know how close Leidos is to here? And they do portable x-ray, you guys. What do you think's happening to me right now? And what's being just like allowed to happen in front of everybody? Because they can just drive down the road if they wanted to. And they literally develop portable x-ray on light truck. Why do you think this room is vibrating? I do actually make appeals that I might need to get extracted sooner than later. I might need assistance with that. All right. So I'm going to keep going with this presentation because I don't want to like lose my flow here, and it's going to get really bad if I don't keep it going. So let me keep going with the video material. I'm going to get back to the Mob Bell smartphone hackers and the Jeepers Creepers thing.
These language corruptions when they're creating these hacking and energy things. So when they're doing the information warfare, because the same devices that can pass communications, it's just a matter of changing the frequency to one that goes off on, and a factor of amplitude in your ability to aim it at a person that changes it from being a communication device to being a weapon. Guys, I was only had access to communication things in my history until I started researching these things. So I was kind of surprised to learn how easy it was to turn something like that's used for communications into an energy weapon. Okay, but it is. And now with UHF, I would say that's a little bit more challenging to do to a person, because you really have to saturate them, and the antennas are a lot harder to focus individually on the person, right? But with the 5G networks and millimeter wave, with these new extremely high frequency, the EHF bands, they have some that are a little bit outside EHF, but just for the sake of argument, like in America, they're pretty close to EHF, 26.5 gigahertz. EHF is technically 30 gigahertz, but that's pretty close, okay? So it's kind of EHF. The point would be that these beams are a lot different than 850 megahertz. Notice that's 1 megahertz, 850 megahertz was like old school. 1900 megahertz, 2400 megahertz is like your Wi-Fi. But these new signals are in the gigahertz range. And so what that translates to is that the beams are really fine focus. And so I can give you a diagram of what that looks like here, where when your mobile device is going to be traveling around, these types of antennas are going to be installed differently. It's not going to be like the old networks. They're not being put in the same places in the same way. They're there basically to be in high concentration areas where there's more pedestrian traffic, where the person can actually have their device, and, like say they're in a park, like Central Park would be a classic example of an area where they would deploy 5G, I would imagine, right? There's a lot of people there, the subway systems, a lot of people there. It's an enclosed space. People, you're trying to offload outside towers that have a hard time reaching into these nooks and crannies where there's trees or there's underground structures. And so they're going to add these 5G antennas that can just deliver the stream of the antenna. It goes like a little pencil beam right to the device. That's great for efficiency's sake. There's less exposure to it when you don't want it. However, there's disadvantages as far as like the ability to weaponize, guys. And so this is all I'm saying. Like, I have faith, that people in the industry aren't running around just like, trying to weaponize these things, but people should know how easy it is to turn these things into just aiming one of these antennas at a person's face, and it can create all kinds of physical anomalies. If you aim it at their throat, they can start to gag. You aim it at their eyes, it can actually, cause, some retinal issues. It can cause their eyes to twitch. It can cause a lot of muscle spasms. Aiming some of these beams directly at a person's retinal area or at their ears, the collagen layers of their nose can actually reach to the center of their brain if you reach a factor of amplitude that's high enough. And then it starts to affect the pineal gland, and that affects the entire central nervous system. So you can no longer say these things or 100% whatever. There has to be some degree of oversight, guys. So I just provided these series of slides here today because I wanted people to have just more direct technical information that kind of gives you a better idea visually of what I've been trying to communicate in my hours-long presentations, especially lately. I've been researching these things in the field for a long time and trying to partner with anyone in law enforcement who's interested, or any of my any old colleagues, or anybody who would like to just sort of like, find some solutions to this to make to bring some sanity into what's going on out there, guys, because all these cars are integrating millimeter wave antennas. They already had these existing ones that these rogue information warfare networks were using to do cell jamming and stealing people's ROMs and off their phones, which is like your software load or your image file on your phone. And so now when you see how, when I lay out these slides, how the whole hacking system works, how it's something that's actually sold as a suite of services, how Cobham says it doesn't even require the participation of the network. So you see what's going on here, guys. Like, they developed the whole system. Like the Harris Stingray, I do believe, required, at least the way it was designed, was supposed to require participation from the carrier. The way Cobham system designed it doesn't require the participation of the cell phone company, so they can do it, warrantless. And once one person gets one of those systems without permission and knows how to use it and whatever, okay, now we have to find out who is buying and selling these things on the wholesale market to the different people. Who are those providers? Who are the people that are able to sell these things to people?
All right. So see this slide right here? The next time, okay, let me put it like this. All right. When you see that, when you see Antifa, start thinking this. You know, like Antifa, like to see that hat there, you know, with like that they just look spooky a lot of times. They're some scary looking folk a lot of time, those Antifa people. And so they seem almost like deliberately ridiculous in many cases. And that's kind of by design. A lot of their ridiculousness, their color coding, the color of their hair, the way that they integrate certain colors into their clothing are really more to do with frequency assignments, frequency hacking assignments. So, like one group might be green because they're doing the color band that's associated with 850 megahertz. Another group might be all purple hair because they're doing 700 megahertz band hacks. Another group might be all wearing like I don't know, something like yellow shoes, for example, and then they'll be the ones that are like doing the 1900 megahertz hacks. And then they'll have a whole bunch of people that wear rainbows, like nothing but rainbows, and they're going to be the 1700 and 2100 megahertz hackers because that's occulted assignments of the term AWS. That band I just listed to you, like 1700 and 2100 megahertz, which is 1.7 gigahertz and 2.1 gigahertz, respectively. Those bands are the frequency assignment that the FCC designated as AWS, Advanced Wireless Services. So they have these hacks where they can just provision AWS bands, push you on to their AWS band, which of course is called Oz. You like that? AWS is called Oz. And then they push you onto a cloud server. And who's running that cloud? Well, Amazon Web Services, Oz. Wow. And what is it exactly that they're putting on the AWS, which they're putting on the AWS? Well, they're putting your OS, your operating system, on AWS using the air interface AWS. Do you understand that, guys? So one AWS is your air interface. The other AWS is literally the information technology server route, which is a different thing. It's more the IP address. And the other one is the frequency that your phone uses to connect to a network. Two different things, right? But they both involve the transfer of your information, just one over the airwaves and one over the pathway that is the internet, okay, or the IP address, path to path routes. Then your OS is your operating system. So your ROM file, which is the raw software that's like on your phone that stores the entire image, like the way you can back up your entire computer onto a ROM image, you can do that with your smartphone. So the ROM image would then be your operating system. So think about what I just told you guys about how occulted all this is and weird, right? Your OS is your operating system that they snatch from you with these Cobham hacks on AWS and then push to the cloud on Amazon Web Services, which is AWS. Oz, 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 keeping you all in where? OZ, Oz. Got it yet? Yes, they're doing it. They're doing it, folks. What are we going to do about it? And I'm not saying it to piss you off. I'm asking, like, what can we do together? Because I got the knowledge. I can definitely assemble the team and I can make it cool as hell. So who wants to do it? Because I don't want this to be, guys, I want this to be some rock star shit. I want this to be something that people are rewarded for figuring out. I want this to be something that people are celebrated for figuring out. I am sick of being, shamed about it. I'm sick of being made to feel like I have to sort of like what? I can't help knowing what I know. So I'm not saying that I deserve special privilege, but I would definitely love to give that kind of privilege to the people that I know are way more talented than me and would love to take on the risk and maybe have a team of people that are every bit as respected and revered as the ghost hunters on Ghost Adventures, if not more. Because I think this show would be way cooler and we can make it into a reality show. What do you think of that, guys? Let's do something that's entertaining and actually solves the problem simultaneously, because you can almost never get somebody to pay for this on the front end. So you have to turn it into entertainment. Does that sound cool? Because I think we could actually do this. Now I'm actually starting to get kind of pumped up about it. Do we do a fundraiser? Do we do a Kickstarter? How do we promote this idea to the right people? I'm very open to whatever, but I think this is actually a good idea, hunting these freaking creeps, because we know they're doing it. You would have to be freaking stupid by now to deny that this is all happening. And then beyond that, I get it, guys. I'm not saying that you look, this shouldn't dominate my life and it shouldn't dominate anybody else's either. So I'm not saying it for that reason. But this has to get solved, because if this is allowed to thrive in this country, let alone any other one, I promise you, it's just the end of civil society. Nothing can move around in any logical way as long as there's this sort of criminal mafioso technocracy that's just allowed to do this to whoever they want to, like they're a communist installed government that never announced that they're actually in charge. It's a little bit like we got the CCP, but just didn't know it. And the CIA is managing our relationship in the United States in tandem with the FBI and the DOE, if you ask me. Very heavy involvement with the DOE, Department of Energy. As weird as that sounds, because you can't do any of this thing I'm telling you without the Department of Energy. Why? Because it's all about transferring information over power routes to a central location. Who does that all lead back to? Department of Energy. So who's the real big brother? Department of Energy, National Security Directorate. Right, Hanford Nuclear Reservation. All right. Look, I do think that I have a very good case for just saying that there's only one person that I could really ever know that would need to be able to like solve this problem with me, and it should have been my big brother. He should have stepped forward and volunteered himself. I'm just saying this, guys, because here's the thing that he should know. I'm going to say this to everybody, guys, because nobody has the right to say that. I'm not going to say it, man. I've always been, look, me and my brother definitely had a challenging relationship growing up. Okay, no question. But over time, I looked at it as just things that siblings go through. I gave up on it, didn't get angry about it. I let it go. And me and my brother actually kind of got to be pretty decent. I'd say we were kind of friends for a while, even got along there for a while. I kind of forgot about a lot of the shitty things that he did, really shitty things. I forgot about a lot of things that were in part of his character. And I kind of bought into this sort of like surface level of whatever else other people buy into as his actual persona. And I just now know that to be phony. That's all. That's my personal opinion. Because this is the kind of problem that requires that level of sophistication in tandem with mine and the people that I would know and colleagues that I would know to actually solve. And there's no need to shame me and make me look like an idiot because you just want to fit in with your coworkers, if that's all it was. Because it just makes everything look shady. Somebody should be stepping forward to solving this. I have a whole freaking solution here on how we can do this. Make it look guys, I can make this freaking cool. I'm telling you. This doesn't have to be, none of us have to be sitting here getting angry about it. We could be sitting here high-fiving each other left and right and going, damn, if I knew that it was going to be this good, I would have done this a long time ago. I promise you, when you catch people doing this and you prove it and you've got a good way of doing it, man, I'm talking about like, oh my God, it'll feel so good. And I know we can do it. It'll be entertaining, trust me. Guys, it's, they have shows about like bait car and things like that where they try to get people that are in like really poor neighborhoods to steal cars, like in really obvious, like, are you shitting me? These insured cars, again, it's not cool to steal anybody's cars, but really you're just going to leave the keys in a car in like the worst freaking neighborhood and you're like wondering why that happens, kind of thing, but they do things like that on these television shows and act like, ha ha ha, we caught these people. And it's like, come on, man. Again, it's not cool to steal a car ever, but that's like some weak shit. To me, this should be like what these shows, like reality shows and things like that, should be catching. These sophisticated hacks. And they just ignore that they happen. Why might that be? Because it's central to the power of the people that control all of said industries. So we're going to have to do something, guys. Very, very creative. I've already got a channel that's kind of laid a great foundation work for catching things, okay? Really, as far as like giving tutorials, helping people understand all the entire, like the full scope of the issue. So I really feel like this is a good foundation of work. I'm not trying to be like the rock star of it. I'm just telling you that you got to, like, instead of this always being something where the people that are like experiencing it and going through it, like, is this big downer and it's this big, like, oh, we're all, I mean, look, guys, it is okay. It sucks and I hate it, right? But we've got to change it. We have to transmute it. Again, energetically, you've got to rug sweep these people energetically on when they're trying to do something this destructive because their entire ecosystem is rug sweeping our entire sense of reality. So you've got to take that away from them. You got to take the power away from them. And it's surprisingly easy. It starts with identifying their hacks and it freaks them out. It freaks them out. You will see their heads spin. You will watch them freak out. I promise you, when you witness yourself winning just a few times, even if nobody's doing something about it at the federal level, you're still going to feel super good inside. I promise you. It does, like, when you learn the technology methods that they use and how to dance around what they do, you'll see it. I used to know this guy that used to make this, like, when he talked about how some people, like, are really emotional. And I didn't like that he said this, by the way, because I think it was kind of shitty, but he said it was like blowing on a spider. You could just make them move by, that kind of thing. All right. So again, in his context, I thought it was a shitty thing, but in the context of these technology hackers and the Jeepers Creepers, yeah, there's certain things that you can do with your cell phone because they're trying to jam you at that time, that once you understand the methods that they're using, and they're very basic, they're not that complicated. And most people can dance around them with a little bit of finagling on their phone, putting your phone into airplane mode, going between 4G, 3G, technology, putting your radio in and out of radio states off and on during the day very frequently. This all completely hoses up everything that they're trying to do, especially if you feel like this aggressively happens to you and the things that I'm telling you resonate with you. I promise you that there's things that I can teach you that will absolutely take the wind out of what they do. And then the more people that learn this, if the feds won't do something about it, at least there'll be a whole bunch of people out there that are making this network basically cripple, because just putting your phone into airplane mode sometimes very briefly, or just going between 3G and 4G when they're trying to do something, just cripples what they've done. It's a little bit like they've been working for a long time to use like Tor browsing and seeding things in different steps till it eventually reaches a payload that's supposed to land on your phone and place it out over the tower network. And it's like right at the moment they're going to do it, you go like, bam, cancel. And you'll just see these people that shouldn't be responding to what you did, responding just by putting your phone into airplane. You'll see them like, oh. Or they'll even comment like, got shut down. You're like going, don't ever tell me it's my imagination. But that's when you actually they're just small victories, you guys. It doesn't really, at the end of the day, it doesn't really change anything. I mean, they're still going to eventually get what they want, I guess. But, it slows them down, and you get those individual victories there once in a while, or those wins, or whatever you want to call them. Sorry, I'm not trying to speak any code here, guys, because that's one of them. Anyways, Department of Department of Industry Councils. All right, sorry, I was trying to read some of these comments here. All right. Let me go back to the video material, and then I'll come back to the comments here, and I'll get to one of the ones you just said. So I want to finish this presentation, though it only has a few minutes. I'll finish up a little bit on the topic here of the Jeepers Creepers and that type of thing, and then we can get more into the whiteboards, and I can talk more about the frequencies that are being used. Because I talk about how the whole AWS, OS, OZ thing. I'm going to whiteboard that again. I've done it before, and I've done presentations on this going back a couple years, especially when I was in Las Vegas, and they're heavily doing this whole Oz thing there. I had no idea that when I would get close to places that were on the East Coast that would be close to military and intelligence circles, that this much of the infrastructure within wireless would be this badly compromised. It's insane. And no, it's not my imagination. I'm really wondering how the hell anything is kept private in this entire defense industry. I'm kind of puzzled by it. I'm kind of wondering if some people maybe here even know how screwed they are relative to what they've given away just by allowing so much of their technology to be manufactured overseas, and so many of their routes to be compromised by corrupted groups that are trusted by defense departments, but not just them directly, like Department of Defense, but I'm talking like the NSA, the FBI, and the CIA. Even if you had people at the CIA and the FBI that weren't sort of quote corrupt at a pretty large scale. So let's just leave that out, guys. Let's say that that's all imaginations. I don't think that anymore, guys. I'm just saying, like, let's just all be a little bit more optimistic. Even if I think you had the best people and the brightest that were really doing their jobs, and that was the vast majority of them, say that is the case, and maybe it is, they would still struggle to do their jobs accurate, based on what I know about SAIC and Leidos, their access to information technology, information systems within the infrastructure of the U.S. government, specific to this national surveillance involving the NSA, the CIA, the FBI, and the DOE, all of them. This company has had their hands in all of them, and I'm telling you that they are run by people that appear to be pretty much Nazis. How else do I say it? If the CEO is named Nazi King, and I'm not exaggerating, this is a reality, guys. The CEO's name is, in fact, Nazi King. A pun. The name is a pun. But like a lot of the things that they do these sort of reversals of perception. So if the Nazi King, I wonder who he is. That's not me being cheeky like it's me or some shit, by the way, guys, because it ain't. But take a wild guess. Nazi King is probably just a puppet CEO for the Nazi King. So again, guys, that's how they do it. Sorry to get into the whole SAIC thing, but none of these things would happen without those people knowing about it, which is why this is also insidious. Eventually, when a group gets so greedy that they have to have all these different information routes under their helm, there's really no one else to attribute it to. Like if you wanted to be the one phone company in the world, for example, like you wanted to like completely edge out every other competitor or government, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then there was like mass surveillance of IT or IS routes or data routes or doping of routes. And there was only one group handling it centrally like that. There'd only be one place to blame, right? Correct? So that's kind of what SAIC has on their hands. It all leads back to them. And then when it comes to hacking infrastructure relative to, the power lines and doping data routes and doing Ethernet over power things, that's the Department of Energy. So you'd have to be a real Nazi king to gain access to all of these places, wouldn't you? Just saying. Gonna get back to the video.
Who are they selling it to? That's an extremely important thing for us to find out right now, guys, because people in America right now are being victimized by this. And when you try to approach people at the FBI, in my experience, and I do believe I'm a pretty good presenter and that I have a good set of knowledge, but in my experience, they have the same idea that they do with the Antifa thing, where they kind of go, that's just an idea, or you just think that that's happening. And I'm kind of going, no, I know this is happening. Would you like to see more information? Oh, please upload that to IC3. Okay. Sorry, guys, but I get a little bothered when I think about my experiences with federal law enforcement and trying to communicate these things. So I'm concerned now, though, because this Intelligent Transportation System, ITS, well, think about it, ITS. Well, guys, I've seen trucks that are labeled ITS, and they have special headlamps that when they're aimed at you, they literally begin to have the effect of tasing you. And they aim specifically at your eyes. How else do I say it, you guys? It's not like I just made that up. I'm explaining to you that they have the signals. They are using this exact system, but also, okay, in addition to doing things that are consistent with this communication network that does like these signals back and forth, car to car, which can be used to pass all sorts of data, guys, including data that they should not be passing. That would be like drug trafficking, human trafficking transactions using cryptocurrency, mobile payment servers with cryptocurrency, effectively to do illicit transactions, having mobile, quote, mall, which is what they're telling people they are. They're a mall, like a little bit like what the hell was that? There was a website that did this, and I can't remember the name of it now. Anyways, there's a website that got shut down by the FBI that was doing this because it was effectively just a black market where you could buy anything. That's all they're doing now, guys. They've just taken it off of the public internet, and you have to be in the know. You have to be one of these people that has this type of hack network where you have access internally to the information that they're sharing amongst each other, but you can also hack other people that are around you, you see. And then you become a person that has kind of like super power, I guess, in that way. Then when you add in, if you have insiders that also are at tech companies, that may have some insiders at DOJ, they may have some insiders maybe at some crisis acting companies, for example. Just saying, that's just for some people who may pay attention to the larger narrative. You can see how this overall system would result to being the Mob Bell Company. It's a full-blown terrorist, like domestic terrorist organization that can just drive around stealing people's information with systems that are designed for law enforcement but are being used by gangs and information warfarians. And then the intelligent transportation system has a backdoor in it where they can literally just drive around geolocating people and using these headlamps that at a minimum are using some pretty sophisticated flicker rate hacks to basically use directed energy and fry people in the skull by aiming directly in their eyes. So that's why ITS does not only stand for Intelligent Transportation System, but it also stands for iTase, because it literally tases you right in the eyes, guys. And I'm explaining to you, I could show you some photos sometimes. When you have direct energy aimed directly into your pineal gland, it goes into your central nervous system and it sends a burst of electricity that can find its way out of all sorts of areas. It's really trippy, and it's happened to me at very high levels before. I've literally had energy weapons aimed at me, and despite the fact that they entered in probably through my skull, the output regions were in my knuckles, precisely in the same spots on two hands. Went through my middle finger and went through my pinky finger on the left and the right hand simultaneously. It blew out electrically. So I know these things happen, guys. That there's a doorway into the central nervous system and the electrical system within the entire body that they exploit this way. And it's being done in cars. Now, when you add in hospitals that are participating in organ harvesting matrix, effectively political organizations, some people have implied the Clintons do this. The Podesta Group have organizations like Mayo Clinic type things where people are put on blacklists, and then when you're on the Arkansas list, that you're on the vehicular assassination list, and this is going to happen to you. Tons of people report these things, guys. They just don't have my ability to articulate it. This is technical in nature because I'm a radio frequency engineer. I can actually tell you what's going on. These other people just get terrorized by it. They don't understand the technicals of it because they don't have the background. So I'm just trying to help people out because when I started researching it for people, it started happening to me. You know? So now I know intrinsically exactly how this thing's working based on the way the behaviors of the people, the way that the devices they're using. I did my own research on what types of antennas could be used, and this is it, guys. It's a Cobham type system. If it's not them, it's somebody who's mimicked it or mirrored it somehow, where they create their own private network that's more of an intranet, push you onto their intranet, jam you off of your network, you're onto theirs now. And then they can do all kinds of things with, if you have a data network, now they can dope your IP address because they're mimicking you. They can clone your SIM ID because they can be you. They just did it. Man, it's scary what they're doing, guys. And this is full-on karma transfer, karma reversal. It's a way for a person that has a very disturbing history to pretend to be somebody else. It's like identity theft on steroids using rogue electronic warfare and wireless interface. And I don't see enough response from law enforcement or federal level, FBI, to create some degree of wing or agency or at least some specialty group that'll handle this because it needs to be done. There's innocent people, guys. I mean, you know what? Maybe you don't like me. Maybe you don't care about me, and that's fine. You know what? What happens when this happens to your grandma? What happens when it happens to your mother? What happens when it happens to your daughter when she goes to school? Maybe because somebody wants you. You understand that? See, these people go for your whole family because your families are doorways to your information. So you may not care about me. I'm explaining to you, do you want my help to solve this problem before this problem happens to you through somebody else? Because That's their gateways. Just think about it a little bit. I'm going to give you all this information to review. Hope I gave you enough slides to understand everything that I'm discussing here. It's a very serious problem, and up until now, maybe because I haven't given the right number of visual aids, I don't know. Hopefully this will be good. Hopefully this will give you guys understanding what I'm discussing, so that I'm not just like waving my arms around going, this is happening. This will help you understand exactly what it is. It's something that I think that was designed perhaps with good intentions, the internet or the intelligent transportation system regulating traffic. But, you know, as soon as somebody figured out how to pass data bumper to bumper, they thought, hell, why get caught with child porn on your IP address on your home cable network when you could just have a whole group of pornographers driving around in their luxury vehicles, transferring it car to car? Oh, and if there's ever any whistleblowers that learn about this, you could also use the same exact systems, the same antennas and the same radios to aim shit at their head or a millimeter wave at their face and tase them in the eyes while they drive. That's what's going on, guys. These networks have become very powerful. That's why I call them the mob bell. And that's why I don't call it ITS, I call it iTase. Not to be humorous, but it's just a way for people to remember things. So I have more that I can expand on this, but this is already up to 23 minutes, so I want to end it here. And I do appreciate you reviewing all my information, and I'll have a longer discussion on this soon. Thank you for watching.
Yeah, so that part towards the end, especially like where it shows you piezoluminescence in the pineal gland, that slide, that kind of shows up in different parts. That's important to remember about why this is such an effective method. Vibratory frequency entrainment upon the pineal gland structures your reality. It can change and bend everything around you. It's why people have to sort of just like be very, very, man, I'm telling you, this is it's probably one of the strongest things I've felt in a long time, but I'm trying to get through it here. It's one of the reasons why you have to be very, you have to train your brain to get around it. And, again, all I can tell you guys is that this is not going to go away anytime soon, sadly, because the people that have learned how to do this, they can get away with it because effectively no one's doing anything about it. And there's not a group of people that are actually going around aggressively investigating these things. Guys, don't you think, don't you guys feel like there would be an enormous amount of satisfaction from just running around proving that these things are a reality once you have tangible case studies that you can latch onto, to have a team of investigators that would, as a reality show of some sort, the same way that you would have guys, there's paranormal investigation shows left and right. Don't you think this would be a fascinating thing to investigate the phenomenon? Because it's pretty widespread now, guys. They're really trying to pretend like it's a very limited thing when it's really not. It's actually quite widespread. It's just most people kind of keep it a secret. And, the gloves are off as far as I'm concerned. I'm pissed at this point. I'm not going to let it bother me, though. I mean, it's about as upset as I want to let anything bother me, because every time I let myself get upset or aggressively bothered by something, it just helps these things latch on 10 times stronger. And so again, this is the aggravating part of it. There's such a spiritual component of it because you just have to maintain your chill. It's like you're forced to. And when, you kind of deserve the right to express some pissed offedness or some anger about the situation from time to time, but that in your heart of hearts, it's the wrong thing to do, in any situation, honestly. I mean, so, I'm not going to suggest that I'm the best at it or anything like that. I definitely have my weak points. I did another article a couple years ago, around the same time that I was in a lot of those budget hotels out there in Vegas. The Vegas thing was pretty bad, guys, with this hacking. And so it's bizarre to me that now I'm in a place where it should be completely different. It's almost every bit as bad as Las Vegas was. And here you expected the formality, at least of the area, that because there would be so much of this sort of military and intelligence circle presence around here, that it wouldn't be just so freaking wild, wild west and cartelish. And it is. That's what's trippy about this place. And I'm just wondering who the hell's in charge. Seriously, guys. Really? Just where's the pride? Because this whole freaking the whole country, okay, is basically just being handed off to where. They're doing it. They're just giving it. They're effectively giving it all to China and selling us off for pennies on the dollar. Our media, and again, guys, I have zero problems with the Chinese people. I have no qualms about that, honestly. I want them to understand that very much so. This is about governance. I would not want our government to be imposed upon you in any way that would be, again, and I would disagree with any policies that would suggest that we should try to impose our governance on you. And I wouldn't want your governance imposed upon us as the CCP over into the United States any more than I would expect the United States to try to annex China. And yes, I understand there's been a history of that happening from time to time. I get it. And I'm not entirely in agreement with it. So those aren't things that, we could all go on and on about histories of countries going back hundreds of years and policies, blah, blah, blah. I get that. And I'm talking about here and now today, and what can we achieve just through just looking each other in the eye and agreeing to be human? Because at a technology level, I think we all have to agree that none of our countries are going to be able to sustain this the way the corruption is right now. And seeding more corruption into another country via these technology hacks, which I think China must know at a pretty deep level. Look, I don't blame them for trying and succeeding on some levels. Honestly, it's not like I'm endorsing it. Do I blame them for trying? No. But does the CIA do everywhere? They dope routers. They dope phone systems. They backdoor internet routes, right? SAIC. They're freaking hypocrites. And they've made America look bad. And just like there's certain people, I'm sure, in the CCP that have done things that are far outreaching just the governance of their own people that might make them look bad too. So, all I would just do is, even if this seems cheeky or silly to some people, I'm just trying to be human here. Just as one human being to whoever they are over there in China, let you know I respect your culture. I honor and actually admire a great deal of things relative to Chinese culture, and I mean that very sincerely. Some of my favorite things to do, especially when I was living in Portland, was go to visit the gardens there. I've always found the people to be incredibly graceful. The artwork is beautiful. The culture is beautiful. Food's amazing. Everything about Chinese culture is incredible. So I hope you understand that none of this is said with any sense of malevolence or xenophobia. It's said with absolute love for your culture and your people. And I mean that with absolute sincerity. But I'm just looking for anybody who has a deeper level of understanding like I do about what really needs to happen, and who must know what bloodlines I come from, because I know there's people over there that kind of see things at that level at DNA. And maybe just the fact that I am from where I am would maybe make it a difference to them, even though I don't feel like it should be used for that. But they must know what I'm related to and who. And so the best thing that I can tell you is that I would just make an appeal to you that whatever somebody might tell you that would work as far as relinquishing the power of the United States over to China, I promise you will not. It just would never work. These people here would never stand for it. And it wouldn't be good for any of us. But these technology backdoors, there has to be some degree where we have to have like a Geneva Convention type thing of what's allowable and what's not. And I think that in order for us to be civil from country to country, we're going to have some agreements that we can't have these sort of firmware technology backdoors. Anybody. You can't be doing this in ways that offer these exploits to certain governments, especially. That we have to just have this universal agreement. And then after that, it just has to be common sense decision making about, yeah, maybe you don't want a lot of American companies handling the infrastructure of your telecom. That would be logical. You would be rational to make that decision. And we don't have the best history of managing other people's telecommunications resources in a way that's honest. No, they will sniff report it. They will listen in on all your shit. They will monitor it. They've proven that they're going to do it over and over again. So don't trust them with that. Touche, you're right to not trust them. So you see, I'm not a hypocrite. We all know here that there's quite a few agencies and groups around here in our own country that deserve a good spanking. Seriously. We just don't know what to do about it. But we can't allow it to happen. I don't believe we should allow it to happen from another country. That's all. America should do its own dirty work. Get it done, America. Please, I'm here to help. I'm not here to tell you or lecture to you about things. I am here to educate as much as I can, provide as many slides, provide as many whiteboards, give you as much as my time for free or otherwise. But you know what? I can't afford to give it for free anymore because I have bigger responsibilities and I have to attend to them, whether you want to believe that or not. And I need to, and I want to. Don't don't put me in that position, please. Please don't put me in this position where I have to choose all these different things that pull me in different directions because it's really not fair. And I'm trying not to let it torture me inside, but it is. I can only handle doing so much of this without having the right resources to actually fight it. And I'm trying to make it cool, man. I know this is not like I'm being a downer right now, but it's just because it's like it's so goddamn frustrating because I know how good things could be. I do. I know how good things could be. Don't you just want to be winning left and right? Because I have the keys to the kingdom when it comes to winning left and right. Do you want to win? Every day. That's what it's about. That's why I think it's so sad. Because I know how good it's going to be. Like there's like no question. It is going to get there. How or when exactly? I don't have all the look. I don't have all the answers to that. Timelines don't really work that way. I get a lot of information about timelines. I don't claim to be 100% good on everything, but I know there's going to be a point in time where things are going to be extremely good for all of us. I don't know when that's going to be, but I know there requires a tipping point. And so let me get deeper into like the way these things work, guys, because I can't do this like forever tonight, and I want this to be a palatable discussion that later on is going to be whatever. Yeah. Yeah, and just so you guys understand something, man, I am not a snob about this. Okay. If the people that are interested, I promise you, my boss, I was so intimidated about designing cell phone towers. Like somebody offered me an option, like, would you like to come back? Because I was living in Oklahoma doing system performance, so drive testing, basically, just driving in grid squares all over town, and then post processing the data, and then reviewing it, like where the calls dropped or how well the network performed, and then fixing data parameters. That's what I was doing in Oklahoma. And I had moved from the northwest of the country to that state, and I actually really enjoyed Oklahoma, guys. I did. It was like a really, really cool place filled with just like some incredibly beautiful people, very friendly, very intelligent. I really liked it there, and I really haven't been hugged by that many strangers probably ever in one place. They really are some of the nicest people ever. And but I was offered a position, and I remember we're at a company function where we met in Oregon, because I actually went to work in Oklahoma, and then I got flown back to Oregon for a company meeting like just months after I transferred. So it was like nice because I got to come back and see, friends and family. And it was all paid for, right? I got to stay in a cool hotel, like right around the corner from where my family lived, actually. And I remember my boss, where everybody was drinking at a bar that night, and my then not boss, but soon to be future boss, was like, "Hey, why don't you come back to the Northwest and work with us?" And I was like, "What?" I was like, I waited for a good position in the Northwest for so freaking long. I was like wanting one of these performance positions, and nobody was hiring me. And I got sick of it. I'm enjoying Oklahoma. I'm happy to stay there. Like, come on, you want to come back to the Northwest? And I'm just like, well, I need money. I'll go to the Northwest. And it was weird because I just said it facetiously. I wasn't even like being that serious about it. It wasn't like it was that. Sorry, guys, I'm a little bit watery. I wasn't even being that serious about it. And it was weird because then, like, I don't know, like a few months later, I kind of got that tip off, like, oh, you should probably apply for this. And then, like, a few people called me up saying, you should apply for this. And I was kind of like, oh, okay, well, I'll apply for it, And then, yeah, like I got an offer and it was more money and I got to come back to the Northwest. And anyways, the point was I was really intimidated by it, and I was like going, and they're like going, why don't you come back up and design cell towers? And I'm like going, I was a cell technician. I was just a monkey pulling cards. That's all I did, guys. When you're a technician, honestly, in the cell phone industry, it seems like it would be pretty technical and super complicated. And it is. Don't get me wrong. It's not like it's that simple, but in a way it is. I mean, it's kind of as simple as like somebody says, there's a card in slot number 4 and it needs to be replaced. And then you drive all the way out to a tower and, you go into the security fence, you tap in everything like that. You tab your card in and everything like that. You see that there's a red light on it. You pull the card out. You take the one that you have that's working. You put it in the slot 4. You tell somebody back at a switch by calling them that you've replaced the card. They turn the card back on and then the problem solved. I mean, it was never really that challenging once it got to a certain level. And so my boss said to me, this is like a short story long thing. Sorry about that. But she said to me, don't worry, I could train a monkey to design cell towers. It's not complicated. Like, I promise you that, like, you think it's going to be that difficult, but it's really not going to be that challenging. I can train you. And so it, sure enough, like something that I thought, like designing these like hundreds of thousands of dollars things that are like, you look up and I mean, guy, you think, I mean, that seems pretty complicated, right? But I'm a guy with a high school education. And, yeah, I'm a little bit smarter than average, maybe, I guess, because I got pretty good points on an IQ test when I was younger, but and I was in one of those special classrooms. But I mean, as far as formal education type things go, no, like a PhD or a person with a bachelor's in science or an engineering degree would laugh at some of the things that I talk about. But that's okay because they got a formal education the way they did for a reason, and I learned the way that I did for a reason. And it sort of lent me, even though I have this sort of like crude understanding sometimes of some high level technology concepts, um, it's sort of allowed me to, I guess you could say, expand my learning into more esoteric concepts involving the transfer of human energy and bioplasma and things involving aura fields that I think a person with a more formal education has literally been trained out of understanding. And those of us who take on a more open minded approach to these things and don't assume that we know everything, and even sometimes consider ourselves stupid, like I did most of my career, I really felt dumb. I always felt like I was the dumbest person in any of my engineering groups. And I wasn't necessarily the dumbest one in every group. I don't think that any of us were dumb, to be honest with you. It was very seldom that I worked with a person that was that dumb. It happens, though, don't get me wrong. But it was mostly though that guys, I don't want to get too far off topic here, but the point is all right, let me get back to the whole core of the presentation here. The point is like nobody should ever feel like that they can't learn this, or that if they didn't have a college degree that it's impossible to understand. Like, I could train just about anybody to be a talented investigator and to learn how to sweep for frequencies, or to identify what a frequency looks like, or when something is one thing versus another. I mean, it's just visual exercises. It's being able to like hold up like a flashcard and say like, okay, when I show you this and you see these needles between this and this, what is this frequency? And then, over time you would learn when you see it, and you can see that it's between this number and this number. And you look at what the bars look like on the chart, or what the spectrum, the thing is showing you. Then eventually you just begin to learn what like one signal looks like versus another. And that the talent for identifying the frequencies just becomes a learned thing that you just learn by doing. So nobody should ever feel intimidated by that part. Hang on really quick. Sorry, I ran out of coffee and my throat was getting really dry. The more I talk and everything like that. All right. So digging deeper into this whole concept, let's get into, all right, social justice movements and what they're really doing sometimes. Are they actually protesting? Yes and no, I think, in some cases. So take everything I was telling you earlier about the cars and you're driving down the road and just apply it to pedestrian traffic, and then you effectively have the Jeepers Creepers, just that transfers over to the Antifa Creepers. Okay. To be straight up. I think the people that are doing the vehicular things are oftentimes involved in more sophisticated forms of money laundering at a larger scale. They tend to be people that are doing things that are more high level transfer of larger data blocks, whereas the street level people that are doing the fake social justice things, they're basically doing things involving collection of information about their enemies, trying to reel them in via their extreme actions into collecting data on them through these same means of um, phone hacks and phone jamming. And that if they can get a whole bunch of people, for example, from Antifa to reel in a whole bunch of conservatives to protest them, it's a perfect way to steal data from them simultaneously. And then when you see guys like Christopher Wray going, Antifa? No, they're just an idea. I'm pretty sure they don't exist. When you have people that are at that high level in law enforcement saying that, you kind of get an idea that they really do know everything that's going on. And it's just another one of these, managing the group and pretending that they're doing some type of, I don't know what, they're trying to catch bad guys. Is that what you're pretending out there when you're putting on your Antifa masks? No, you're just disrupting society and getting away with it, then acting like what? Like is the FBI ever investigating them? It seems like they're always investigating conservatives, doesn't it? Like Capital City, which is pretty much just Antifa wearing beards and, the MAGA shaman mask. Sorry, guys, hang on. Yeah. All right. Speaking of which, yeah, this is why people have to get a little bit smarter about what they are getting into when it comes to when you go to a protest, when you go to a political rally, if you go to counter protest another group, which I honestly don't recommend. If you're one of those people that knows what you're doing and you've got a lot of the muscle and the experience and everything, go for it if that's what you get your thrills from. But you must understand that you are stepping into a huge technology trap. You are stepping into a huge information trap. So what I'm telling you is not to necessarily be intimidated by it, but if you're on the other side that's fighting those Antifa hackers that are kind of doing like the aggressive cell phone things, using distraction as a big key method, I do believe a lot of the Antifa's activities are just bogus, 100% bogus as far as their political belief systems. And it really is more about large scale disinformation, cell jamming activities in major centers, using cell jamming to do the data collection and then data transfer. Simple as that. I see them shut down entire parks, shut down entire areas, and they sweep everybody out because they know that if anybody on the outside gets into the little ring of data transfer, they'll be able to detect it, and they don't want them coming near. And so I've seen, like, especially like the Portland guy, that Luis Marquez guy at Rose City Antifa, I've seen him aggressively, like, just barking, like, God, there was one case where I was like a woman, I think it was, trying to like walk into the center of the park. Like nobody was doing anything about this, which I thought was really trippy. And like he was just like kind of aggressively, like, like, well, no, like, no, you're not allowed to come in here. You're not allowed to come in here. And she's like, it's a public park. I can walk where I want to. You can't tell me what to do. Well, he's not getting that upset for nothing. He's probably conscious and aware that somebody nearby is running a frequency sweep on him and his little buddies. And they're going to figure out that these guys are really just cell jamming and hacking, and that's going to get identified. So now that that's all being kind of revealed and more people are taking my cues for my information and figuring out what's really going on out there, yeah, you're going to start to figure out, like, if you start doing some spectrum analysis and doing some deeper dives in those environments, they're doing heavy cell jamming, heavy cell phone hacking, and internet protocol route hacking. False attribution of tips programs is one of their best methods. There seems to be some programs that the FBI has established that they know how to sort of backdoor, that most people aren't even conscious and aware exist, that are, I think it's called TIPS. And one is also part of InfraGard. And these are some pretty insidious programs that give a lot of citizen law enforcement powers over to people that are in corporate environments. For example, corporate security people would be heavily involved relative, like if you had a corporation that with like a lot of employees and they had like a head of corporate security, those kind of people would probably be in contact with or have some degree of interface with the InfraGard program if they wanted to volunteer for it. And that could kind of turn a lot of people in those types of roles into sort of these citizen FBI agents. It's kind of spooky, guys. And then those people in turn transfer their power and their influence to larger groups that can hive into them centrally. That's what I've observed is going on. People that have heavy FBI, InfraGard, and quote tips programs types things work in tandem with these social justice movements. And part of what they do is to, at this point, guys, and this is no bullshit, a big part of their method is to aggravate, reel in conservatives, and slime them with disinformation. And this is why those of you who like to go counter protest and wave American flags, God bless you. And I appreciate your patriotism, but be smart about your smartphones. Okay. Because they're bringing you into traps and they're definitely going to want to swipe your phones from you. It's just part of their method. I've watched them do it, and I've looked at these clips. Like I haven't done it lately. I don't like spending a lot of my time on that. But about a year ago, I watched many hours of protest footage, counter protest footage, shot from various different groups with different interests in the whole thing or non-interests. And I was like going, no, there's something else going on with this. This isn't what everybody thinks it is. I'm seeing way too much coordination with these smartphones. There's way too much of these things where they're holding the phones up like this, which is a sign that they're trying to link around people, like they're using it as like a hotspot or a Wi-Fi hotspot, like they're trying to mesh into other phones. I've seen them do these types of weird activities in tandem with their fake protesting. The disingenuousness of a lot of their intentions. Yeah, I mean, they're insane and they're crazy and they'll bark things at people, but they have this smarminess and these smirks on their faces a lot of times. Like they're just like I can't believe people are believing this crap, because they kind of know what they're doing with the smartphones. And it's just another form of what I was showing you earlier with the Jeepers Creepers systems. Effectively, it's taking, and if you want to, I can start whiteboarding this, guys. Let me put it onto a different camera here so I can do a little bit better job. All right. So, all right. What is this hack? Hopefully you guys can see this. If not, I can, let's see here. Let me get some more light on this. All right. So what they're using here, guys, is something called Tulip. All right. It means tool lie IP. They deceive the route of the internet protocol address. So the internet protocol address, the IP, okay, is the internet protocol IP. And an example of this would be like that number that you would punch in for the URL for a tower, for example. So like even though like maybe it's www.genericwebsite.com, there's still going to be an underlying internet protocol route that's going to connect you back to some server that's going to usually have this, and then a lot of times it'll also have like what do you call it, a colon, then a whole bunch of like another extension after that for the port forward or the route or whatever. But anyways, but it's like a virtual home address. So like these IP routes, the reason why it's important for them to like spoof these and falsely attribute them to somebody else is because it's a little bit like having mail delivered to somebody else's address and being able to pick it up without that person knowing about it. Like if you were able to somehow trick your neighbor into always being gone, and then you had a whole bunch of like drug shipments made to their front door and then just ran over there and grabbed them and everything like that, it'd be a way of making it look like your neighbor was doing it in case somebody ever actually tracked the shipment. You know what I mean? It may not work, but it's the kind of thing that these people think to do. Okay. And So Tool-I IP is used by traffickers to transmit data for drug trafficking, human trafficking, child pornography, money laundering, other activities maybe that are not quite as serious, like gun running and things like that. Again, guys, I'm the kind of person that believes that if your vices, as long as it's all with free willed people, if it's sex, drugs, and rock and roll, that's your business. I don't really care. But if you take people as human slaves, then we have a problem. If you exploit children, we have a problem. If you abuse children or transmit or receive images willfully or knowingly of all these things, then yeah, we have problems. You're going to have a problem with me. I'm not going to be okay with what you're doing. I'll never be okay with what you're doing. I'll never allow it, and I'll never be passive about it. And I'll never be the kind of person that just sits back and lets it happen. Okay? That's just the reality. And I'm never going to let anybody talk me into just taking it in the ass, because that's just not how I am. I'm not a pussy. Sorry. And I know too much about how this all works for me to ever be a pussy about it. I can't do it. But I do expect to, do something meaningful in order to find a solution to it. So I'm also not a person that's going to engage in schmuckery. That's all I'm saying, guys. Like, we've got to do something about it. But yeah, we've got to, like, if we can't find a way to like get people to pay for it, then let's just turn the investigations into an entertainment series that's marketable, which I do believe it is. And anybody who's willing to talk about that with me at a deeper level, please let me know. So let's talk about a little bit more about what this means here. This internet protocol address hack means relative to your phone. So here's where I talk about like the air interface, right? Between the tower and everything like that. That's the airwaves. So like in order for your phone to even reach the cell tower, that involves a frequency or a band. So that's what I was discussing over here, is how they hijack your phone is through the airwaves. Okay. But once they have your airwaves, your AWS, which is your, again, it's not always using the AWS band, but let's just for the sake of argument say, once they have your AWS, your advanced wireless services, which is over here, hang on. And of course, now all the colors are going to wash out. How about this? Okay. So these are the bands, right, that I'm talking about. So like 850 megahertz was really the 1G signals, and it's still used by all the Gs. You can find all 4Gs using 850 megahertz in various companies. 700 megahertz was mostly using the LTE bands, but again, they can be used for anything, voice or data. 1900 megahertz was called PCS bands. Okay, that was mostly a 3G, 2G type evolution, but they've been around since pretty much the 2G. Ever since digital technology has been around, there's been 1900 megahertz bands being delivered by, or not delivered, but auctioned by the FCC. And then you have the 1700 2100 megahertz band, which is AWS. And again, this is why I call this system. Hang on, we got to do some camera balancing here. This is AWS. Okay, AWS. So AWS. Here, let me put this. I gotta mount this camera really quick. Hang on. Okay, so AWS is Advanced Wireless Service. Sorry, that didn't look like what I meant to type. Sorry. Hang on. Service. Okay. All right, that's one, and that's the 1700, 2100 megahertz. So again, this is AWS as frequency. Then you have AWS as ITIS cloud. This is called Amazon Web Services. AWS, AWS, Oz, Oz. And then all of this involves cloning or mirroring your OS, operating system. So what do you have? Oz. Oz. All right. Are you starting to understand how weird this all is? But it's actually happening. When you see something that's this bold about how the way these pieces all fit together, you know this was done by design, correct? Can we all agree that none of this seems as if it was all sort of like just by coincidence that they have something that's called an operating system that gets cloned on a AWS by jamming your frequency using AWS, and that all three form the word Oz, which is where they placed all of us informationally. We are all of us in America, in this construct of Ethernet over power, informational transfer, illusory fictionalized sense of privacy that we have that has never existed ever since this technology's been around. All the encryption you think you have is worthless. All the things that you have are stored centrally someplace. All of it. I'm not saying to be happy about it, but you can't get freaked out anymore. Now it's like, what are we going to do? Because that's just the way it is. That's why they've got so much power. That's what they've learned how to do. And so, really, what you have to start digging deeper into when you're looking at the social justice movements is start to diagram it a little bit, and you'll start to see it a little bit when you zoom out. I've actually seen a drone, or no, drone footage of like somebody just took like their own drone, not like an actual security one. It wasn't like an FBI thing, but I saw one of an FBI, or not an FBI. No, sorry, it wasn't an FBI thing. It was like a little tiny like miniature drone, like you'd buy at like a little electronics store. It wasn't anything like major, guys. We weren't talking like heavy surveillance here. Somebody simply just took one of these things down to the downtown Portland and hovered over one of these alleged like early Antifa protests from like 3 or 4, maybe 5 years ago, I think. And when I saw them back then, or the ones that were from back then, I was kind of like, what are these people? That doesn't even look like a real protest. That just looks like a bunch of people down there playing professional wrestling. It just all feels phony. Are you sure those are real people? I think I've seen some of those. In fact, that person looks like I could be related to them. And those two people over there look like some people that I hung out with in Portland. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, it was like that, guys. I was looking at it going like, why do these people all seem kind of familiar and they look like they're kind of faking this? Are you starting to figure it out? Those who haven't yet? I mean, I think a lot of the people that are here on a regular basis, yeah, you kind of got it all figured out. But a lot of these things that you're seeing in the media are really designed to prime the pump and get all of us arguing amongst each other. But some of those people, even that are in those things, they don't really give two anythings about what they're actually discussing. It's a really good front for getting away with trafficking. Because guess what happens when they get busted doing something like that? All these people rush to their defense as if they're somehow defendable, when they're really just always were traffickers hiding behind social justice. And guys, especially in the Portland social justice movements, this is surprisingly common because it's not just anybody who's hiding there. These are registered sex offenders. Registered. These aren't even the ones that are just like aggressively hiding it using their aliases. These are people that are actually like it's known on their record. And guys, that's what's even more disturbing is the number of unknown ones, the ones that get all their record swaps. That's disturbing. And I have to believe that even some of these ones that you see seated in the media, they still wind up getting their record swapped someplace and go off somewhere else and do the same thing again. The system is that corrupt. And I know that nobody who thought gun running over cryptocurrency as much as they wanted to make money would have thought that it would be okay that using the same network that people would be buying and selling children and transmitting child porn. But that's what they're doing, you guys. So you need to just start to like, sorry, just get a little bit of like integrity amongst yourselves. There is honor amongst thieves. There is honor amongst people that are involved in criminal enterprises sometimes. And I'm asking you to find your honor, please. I'm appealing to your better nature in that regard. I'm saying that I don't really have a problem with you if you're just doing whatever on the side. I never did. And I won't in the future. I'm asking that you guys do something internally about this too. You obviously have the muscle. So don't tolerate this if you don't want to. Whoever you are out there, I don't know any of you. I don't mean that facetiously, guys. I mean, I really don't. I don't know them. I'm just letting those people know that they don't have issues. I just don't think that you're typically the kind of people that are okay with these other things. That's been my experience with people that like guns. Most of them were like the coolest people in the world. Even if I wasn't into them, I've generally liked the people that really were. And they told me all their stories, or I was just side by side with them while they shot things and thought it was cool too. That's all. Just doing things out in the woods or whatever kind of like crappy, shooting at cans and things like that. I mean, when you're raised in the sticks, there's not a lot of things to do. So, a lot of hunters and things like that. And me personally, I could never go out hunting for an animal in the forest. I just can't bring myself to do it. But I understand. I mean, there's a lot of people that have this, I don't know, it's a communion with nature thing, and it has a deeper understanding of the way cycles of life work, I guess. And so I just respect that part of them. I don't have to do it myself or agree with every part of it, but I just don't have a problem with that, guys. But I also don't want people hacking my routes. I don't want people hacking my phone, and I don't consent to any of that. That's all. That's all I'm asking anybody on any part of this, guys, is that you just do your best to leave me out of what you do. And all I'm trying to do really is identify the people that are mostly involved with child exploitation and to get them appropriately dealt with, because right now they have way too much protection within the infrastructure. That's the serious problem that we have. And when you understand, guys, that even the NSA learned that they had, I don't think it was even hundreds. I think it may have been over 1,000 employees that had been engaged with the purchase of images or videos of child exploitation involving even sometimes their own credit cards directly that were working at the NSA, and that they discovered this about them and actually even found it on their company machines or their government machines. Wow. That's pretty serious. So what does that tell you? I think on some level, guys, if you know how the doping of networks operates, that could have actually been a lot of different reasons why that had that number. It might have been a smaller number than that, and it created the illusion based on the doping, and the way they use kind of like Tor browsing and seeds and things like that in various locations to assemble one master file. Because I know that's part of what they do to kind of accomplish things in a way that's kind of like less than traceable. It involves somehow like placing like a seed of a file, and that's divided up into a whole bunch of different ones, and they're sectioned off and eventually reassembled at a final location, then transmitted out over an IP address. And it just makes it way harder to trace. It's like built in like geo-reference hacking of route and IP attribution in tandem with, like, there's almost no way it's ever going to make it back to its original owner or like who was trying to send it. It's bizarre the way it works, but I can whiteboard that part better. I'm trying to think if I should do it tonight or not. But effectively, guys, let me finish up with the whole Antifa thing here about, like, all right, so if you Let me put this thing on really quick. And I'm not saying that all of them are doing this, but I'm just telling you that there's a good number of these types of protest groups that are. It's not exclusive to them. It's kind of just a thing that people are just using as a cover, going out in public and pretending they're outraged about something when it's really a way to either hack somebody or gain intelligence on an enemy. All right. Okay, so the thing I've noticed about Antifa is they seem to have a way. So, like, say this is a park, right? Hang on, I'll put this up here. All right, so like there's a public square type park, and they announced that they're going to have a protest in this park. Well, it ain't a protest, right? So they basically say they're going to be in here, and they're going to be in this location. And so the whole point of Antifa, so Antifa says they're going to be there, like for 3 hours on, X date 2021, right? Okay. While they're in this park, what this is really about is creating a zone. So this isn't really the protest, it's a perimeter sectioning for frequency that they can now control. So, say, for example, they know what the available frequencies are, like an 800 megahertz, and that the cell phone carrier isn't using all of them. This park is really going to be set aside to transmit something like in the 850 megahertz. Like they might use like the F7 band that's like way old school 3G technology assignment type things. Then everybody comes in with their smartphones. And they all use this frequency exclusively. Again, this is just one example, guys, of how it could work, right? They would take, sorry, that doesn't look very clear, F7. So effectively, this is a frequency band, and they just kind of create, a little Y mesh pattern. Maybe not mesh is the proper term, but they kind of create their own frequency cloud that goes out here using that cell phone provider's signal. Okay. And so outside of here, the signal really kind of dissipates once you get here and here and here. It's kind of contained. They have the users all kind of coagulating in the center here, which is why Antifa always looks so crazy and insane, and like the kind of people that only people like Antifa would want to hang out with Antifa. Why? Because the people in here are freaking creeps, you guys. They're into sick things. So what this is really about is a way for them to publicly transmit files, information, photos, videos, do currency transaction person to person in ways that don't go out over the internet over a hijacked frequency band. So anti-FA, because you know what this is, guys? 850 megahertz F7 equals an FA. An FA is a frequency allocation. Antifa, like an ant hill, an ant frequency allocation, an anti frequency allocation. So what they're really about is FA, frequency allocation, setting up a zone or a perimeter that they can control information in, and then they just do within this. Or I guess I can put it up here. Yeah, that'll work. Then this has now become files, Bitcoin, whatever, guys, photos, videos. They're all doing all their illicit whatever activities within the zone. And that's the whole point of the ridiculousness. Does that make more sense? Like, you guys ever see like some of the Antifa footage, those unfamiliar, like go look into it a little bit. Just like spend maybe like just 10 minutes looking at the average protest. You're going to see something that looks very, very intensely theatric and bizarre. It doesn't look like a normal quote protest. They don't look like people that have genuine social justice issues, because people that do, honestly, like me, I care about what I do. So you'll see me approach this, even though I'm very loose, I guess you could say, with my language at times. I approach this with a lot of integrity and seriousness. Like when I'm here and I'm giving this information to you, I want you to absorb it. I want you to understand it in a way that's genuine and sincere. And so part of that is, even though maybe sometimes I may not care about being all that presentable. I mean, look, honestly, guys, some days like I've done these presentations, like in my pajamas or just, in a very, very, like right now, actually, I am wearing, in fact, jeans and I got my sweatshirt on and everything. So I am presentable like I would be in a normal state, but I don't have to be. But no, I'm just making I'm being humorous in that sense. But, the point is, though, is that I do my best to try to get my point out in a way that's, people can understand. I try to give you the visuals. I try to be presentable, even if I like to be kind of loose or whatever. I still want to leave at least a decent impression without losing my soul in the process. Antifa doesn't seem to care about that. Like, it doesn't even matter to them to be that anybody understand their ideas or their political beliefs in any sincere way. They go out of their way to be aggressive, to be to where nobody would really truly want to listen to them or join them. So what would be the point of being overtly offensive and holding a political position like they do, and being so public about it and doing these marches the way they do and being side by side with BLM the way they like to be? Well, what do y'all think? They're just getting intelligence on you. And they're really not run by people that are anti-fascist. They're actually run by people that are truly trying to extend the Nazi agenda. They did not give up after World War II. They just simply imported all those paperclip Nazis, and all these bloodlines that still believe in Nazism are continuing to thrive in America. They're just way more secretive about the way they do it. Unless, of course, they work at SAIC, in which case Nazi King doesn't seem to mind advertising. I don't know. That's just a joke, by the way. Hey, I don't know what that's about. That's a little bit strange, though. I still I'm going to have a hard time ever accepting that a person was born in nature as not sick king. That just doesn't sound right to me, guys. You call me crazy if you want to, but I'm never going to accept that that was reality. I'm having a very difficult time with that. Some names I'm willing to at least go like, dude, hey, Daniel, look, this is how it's spelled. Look. That's what it sounds like. It's like it's designed as a pun. Now, guys, that would seem a little bit off, right? Okay, except let's dig deeper into this company that I just said this about. Their name is SAIC, which is CIA's backwards. That's who Nazi King is in charge of. SAIC, which is CIA's backwards. No shit, guys. All right, now let's go. Let's take it another step. SAIC, hang on, spun off to Leidos. Follow along here, folks. So Nazi King is in charge of the company named Psych that spun off to Leidos. Right? They love puns. They love puns. They love them. They just love them. And if you doubt me, guys, we have to do this. Really quick. case you doubt me. Yeah, there you go. CEO, Nazi King. So again, guys, reversal, classic reversal. A king run by a queen. As above, so below. See how they do that? They get you to look at Nazi King, the queen of SEIC, so that you don't know that she's really a puppet to hide the Nazi king. She is the buffer CEO that hides the Nazi king, who is not a queen, but in a way is. Hint. Please figure it out, those who have not and can do something, because you must know how bizarrely obvious this whole thing is. And it's going to look exactly as bad as it looks to somebody somewhere internationally at some point. And somebody's going to put a spanking on us if the US doesn't do something internally. Because these people have way too much control over infrastructure in America, let alone their access to other countries' infrastructure in places like Europe and elsewhere. It's bizarre. Like, we shouldn't trust them. Why would the rest of the world? So we're looking like garbage globally because this company is just so awful. They are. They're horrible. I don't want to do this. Like, guys, I've done so much material on SEIC, so you just have to go back and find that. But you can see me doing like a whole, I could do hours on all the things that they've screwed up and destroyed relative to national security by us paying them hundreds of millions of dollars and them delivering basically a huge turd over and over again. And they keep getting the business. And here's what's even more insane. Then when they screw it up each time, the government says, that's okay, guys. We set the bar too high for you, obviously. So we're going to hire you again to do it all over again. Dirt. Sorry, we just expected too much from you. You give us a little refund, but we're just going to give you the job again. All right, that'll work out. So I get some SAIC stock, though. All right, okay. Because that's kind of how it works, guys. They just give out stock to everybody, and the stock price always goes. So, they always get away with everything. Because nobody in America cares. All these generals, all these people, I guess, don't give a shit, right? I'm asking, guys, why am I this immersed in a military culture and I can't find like somebody who can just walk? Like, guys, I haven't had somebody in the military come up and approach me in a way that I knew like they were really keeping an eye on things in a way that was sincere since I was in California. And God bless you, sir. Thank you very much, because this is why I still have faith in what's going on. Because I've seen evidence after evidence that you were the guy that was designed to talk to me, and now I know. So thank you. And if you're ever seeing this, man, just Semper Fi, thank you so much, because you're amazing. And I appreciate our veterans. I appreciate our military. I'm just telling you that I think that if they were themselves immersed in what I'm dealing with right now, they would be like, this isn't what I would have signed up for. I don't even believe this could be happening. Yeah, it's pretty outrageous. The kind of things that this corrupt group of people that have pedophilia in their histories, this company, actually, the same SEIC guys, look into Robert Baester. He used to have young male interns dub pornography at SEIC for him, and then they would watch it with him on his yacht on the weekends. And he traveled with some of these, quote, young male companions that they called Baester's baby boys. These people are handling more infrastructure and national surveillance than God. Oh, yeah. Yes. That's their history. Just look up an article called Washington's $8 billion Shadow. Vanity Fair was run in about 2008. Has all of it. And that's the sanitized, cleansed one. You should see like everything else they've been involved in. Things close to 9/11. Yeah, guys. Isn't it weird how they like warned America, like, you're probably going to get bombed with a whole bunch of thermite as charges inside your building there at that big old tower. and then conveniently it happens, or you're probably going to get bombed at the bottom. Oh, then it happens. Oh yeah, I guess we're here to investigate. Yeah, it must have been all those Arabs over there. It must have been all those Iraqis and the Afghanis and things. So it's Saddam, right? Yeah, hire us. We're going to go over to Iraq and help you. Oh, and that's what they did. They listened to this guy named David Kay, who lied about all the intelligence relative to all that, guys. How far do I have to go with this company? U.S. military, when are you? I mean, sorry, I have all due respect for you. I'm asking, will you please respect yourselves and stop trusting these people? Please. They cannot be trusted with our information. They cannot be trusted with intelligence relative to your safety, let alone any of our infrastructure. And they shouldn't be. Then once you know that the company was founded by a guy that's pretty much an old pervert, and that he would have no interest in stopping any of these, let alone any of the people that seem to be at a high level there now. Then I got my own brother who spent 6 years there, by the way, guys. Full disclosure. Guys, I brought information to him and he's like, he defends SAIC like line and sinker. And I'm like, dude, seriously? They've got a CEO named Nazi King, and you're still going to look at me with a straight face and tell me that the place you spent 6 years at is all on the up and up? Really? Hey, dude, didn't you develop portable x-ray for them? Isn't that something you shared with me? Didn't you develop portable x-ray with them, dude? You may want to look, especially since you've got a big nuclear radiation hazard symbol tattooed on your leg along with that jackass logo that's a skull and crossbones, right? Skull and bones, nuclear radiation hazard. I mean, I'm just asking, is that advertising or something? What is that? What's that about, dude? Am I just a jealous bad person for asking? I guess that just makes me a bad jealous brother for asking, huh? No, maybe it's just my responsibility to. I need to start asking these questions because I don't think that a lot of other people could without having bad things happen to them. I'm having bad things happen to me, and they're watching it happen. This very powerful group of people that have this much access to all of our information. Guys, do you understand that he has all the surveillance capabilities to find out exactly what's happening to me, which would lead to everything that's happening to anybody who's here who's experiencing something? How about that? And they do nothing. They let it happen. They watch it happen. And they will gaslight me and tell me that I'm imagining it. That's this powerful family for you. Not all of them, guys. There's some people that are in my family that I just don't think are aware, and I don't want to trouble all of them. And I think they've probably been sold narratives by the ones that are shady that say, don't listen to Gabe. He's just full of it and he's saying negative things. And I'm not. I love a lot of you guys. Most of you, I don't think that you even have any clue what's happening. Some of you all definitely do, because I've seen you close to some of the same shady things. So I can't deny that either, guys. Doesn't mean you were involved, but you were close to it. Just like I've been close to some things, but I wasn't involved. But I can now look back and kind of go like, oh, yeah. Oh. Sure, I can see how this led to that, led to that. So that's all I'm asking from anybody is like, I don't care what it looks like or doesn't look like. Just whatever has happened, just don't up to it. Because it's way deeper than you and your personal pride or your job or your own livelihood. Even honestly, you're like hinging your own well-being on above that of the entire country. That's what I honestly believe about you by allowing these things. I honestly think that you're saving your own asses. You're preserving yourselves above this entire country. And I've seen too many signs of it that you're operating on the side that would actually be persecuting certain people for their beliefs, and that those beliefs would tend to be more conservative and patriotic. Just being real. And those of you who've taken that position and who have targeted people in that way, yeah, I'm actually have no sympathy for you, and I will not be soft on you at all. Being real with you. I'm telling you that because the people that have helped me, the people that have treated me like family, come heavily from that group. The people that have treated me with respect, with concern for my well-being, who seem to like actually treat me like family, it's been them. The people that taught me integrity and honor, especially as an adult, since I've been away from the home, it's all been them. With those values, and this is how they feel, and they love America. And so what that did for me is it made me feel closer to America. It made me love America more. It made me love patriots. It made me love the people that preserve it more. And it's genuine. It took a long time for me to figure it out, but I'm there. I'm still me. I still come from where I come from. I'll always love the music that I love and like the things that I like. But I had to learn some pretty hard lessons about the reality of the people that were around me and what their real where their real value systems are. And they are anything but, quote, liberal, despite what they look like on the surface. They do have their roots in cleverly hidden Nazi fascism, masquerading as anti-fascism. Everything to them is deflection and mirrors. Remember that. You must understand this concept of occult mirroring to get what they're doing to you constantly. You don't have to engage in what they do or go into their cults or anything, but you have to understand their belief systems and what they're trying to get everybody else to buy into and why they rigidly believe in what they believe in. It's important to understand it. They don't believe in static truth. They believe they can change it to their will. They do. And it's a war for our perceptions, for our actual minds controlling them. Because to them, this isn't our conscious minds. We're not free will beings to them. They don't respect free will. That is the travesty truly of what's going on in them internally. They have zero respect for free will. They trample on it like it's a matter of pride. And that's something that in my experience, that real patriots, real Americans, people that are genuinely conservative don't really do. Now, some are flawed and some I've seen do things on that level. But most of the ones that I've known have been pretty nice people, and they just respect freedom so much that they were even patient with me being who I was, even though I wasn't like them. Which is something we attribute to liberals more often, isn't it? But what do we see now? What are they doing? They're freaking out and telling everybody, you got to be like us. Wow, you guys are sure seeming a lot like what you claimed all these other people were all this time, and like you're deflecting pretty goddamn hard. Sorry for my language. And that concept of deflection is super big with them because it's about the mirroring. I'm not upset with people that have challenged me on these narratives. I just need all of them to understand, anybody out there. I'm not saying this for your sympathy. I'm telling you that I've genuinely been run through the ringer by these people that barely qualify as human. Some of them were just directly abusive, some of them were subtly abusive, and some were just like just let shit happen and never did anything like it was by design. And that's something that they've mastered. Playing dumb, acting like, I don't know, did that happen? Did you say that to me? Did I hear that? Yeah, I did. You did hear it. You did know. You did do that. You do remember. Trying to just like go, oh, it didn't happen, doesn't really erase it. Especially you, Penny. So I'm sick of y'all covering everything up just because you act like it's been too long. You made it too long. You made it too long. And you've mastered doing this to everybody, as far as I can tell. Making everybody get stalled and lagged until they have no cases and the statutes of limitation is run out for all of these people. And then these predators get away and get to go drift off into the sunset with their fucking palatial mansions in the middle of fucking Mexico. Oh, so they can manage your trafficking routes into San Diego, right? You guys, I know that about you, CIA and SAIC. You always make good use of predators and sex offenders to do your dirty work. Nazi king. All while advertising everybody how many veterans you hire. Isn't that the greatest corruption? So you can pair them next to each other. To even like that you're that sick inside that you think to even like kind of go there. Use one as cover and do the other thing. Forget your whole history about covering up all the negative things, you know, like they would, because you guys, you do this all the time. Like you prevent veterans from getting benefits for like being atomic veterans and experiencing like uranium poisoning and uranium and radiation poisoning. Horrible company. But our infrastructure is hijacked by them. Combine that with the crisis actors that play the buffer CEOs with names like Nazi King. Paper fictions that become real people played by crisis actors. Then, if the shit ever hits the fan and they do something corrupt at the company, like who they are puppets for, again, they're not decision makers. They are there. They're that literally they are puppets. Nazi King, I'm just going to say it, is a puppet for the Nazi King, and he stands behind her and goes like, "Hi, I'm Nazi King. Today's my decisions I'm making for Nazi King." Because they want it to be looking like a queen when it's the king, right? And if it was the queen that was doing it, they want to make it look like it's a king. It'd be a man in the front if it was a woman behind the scenes. But there might be, I don't know, maybe that's how it works. There might be a Nazi queen behind the Nazi king, and maybe that's why they do it that way. I'll put it that way. And I know, guys, this isn't very favorable for me to go there with the whole thing, but at least you understand that if you can, you know, if you see that, then you know that I'm not making things up. I'm not exaggerating when you can see that. All right. That's what's wrong with our infrastructure. These people that I just showed you this is where, when I tell you everything about how Antifa does like the zones, right? When I showed you this, how they'll get into the park, right? And they'll get all their smartphone users like in color-coded things to take on one frequency band. They might hijack the 850 megahertz F7 band if the towers aren't using it. And then they'll tell everybody in this park, like, you can't come in this park, man. It's just us Antifa people. We're protesting all the social injustices of the world. No, they're just creating a private area where they can transfer files undisturbed on a frequency not used by the cell towers nearby. But it's hijacking their resources from them and just reusing them because they get these hacked devices that have like ROM files that can literally change the radio state, something that the phones technically should not be able to do, but they can do if they've been hacked. Okay. Because in all actuality, guys, what should be able to tell the phones what to do is only the cell phone towers, and the cell phone towers give the commands to the cell phones. But when you have hacked devices, you can literally enable radio resources on the phone that are just licensed to cell phone providers that any individual should not be using themselves, but with a hacked device they can. Now, they'll get caught if the actual cell phone provider is needing to use a signal and somebody else is jamming it. They'll get caught eventually because they're gonna go out looking for the jammer. I can tell you, as a person who was in system performance, they do go out looking for them and they do find them, and they do get fined. So people that jam willfully can get fined tens of thousands of dollars. So it's not really something that you want to get caught doing it. But the people that do it this way, they're very clever. They'll find something that they know people aren't looking for them and isn't really, quote, jammed. And I think they do have insider involvement that helps them decide which frequency bands to use, so that they know when they go to a certain park, somebody's already given them the frequency sets to use and tells them how to provision their ROM files on their phones to do it. So they have help. I don't think that they're that much geniuses at the top of that. So you got that. And so whether you agree with the BLM thing or disagree with it or whatever, I'm just telling you that when you see Antifa side by side with all of you, they're doing that. That's probably also what they're doing. They're getting your information and taking files or using your IP routes. And you can imagine why a Nazi would just think that that was so awesome to do. They're both maligning, they're getting people involved with the whole Antifa BLM thing to begin with, which is, again, guys, I definitely respect Black people, Black culture, and everything like that. But I think that there's serious flaws with the BLM movement. And I'm just saying that as a person that again has no animosity or any sense of whatever. It has no subtle racism to it. I've just simply recognized that to me it seems like it's a clever way to steer Black people off into a different value system. Honestly, it does seem like there's a lot of social structural psychology relative to getting them into I've seen the stories, guys, even PBS discusses it, steering people into things that were more black magic and occulted in nature, things that involve witchcraft, things that are more that have origins back to Africa, but when you that are witchcraft in nature or occulted in nature, but then they'll claim it's African culture when it was really just, it was sort of like a way of managing the Black population as slaves, and placing certain ones as energetic figures that would be in charge of the rest, but still ultimately were beholden to the master coven structure. And again, they were white, so, and European. So again, guys, I'm not saying this to do any sort of color or whatever, or anything like that. It's just that that's not a central part of the Black culture, in my estimation, that they're trying to integrate as if that's a genuine thing. And the fact that you had people that had more LGBTQ agendas at the top of that movement, that's fine if that's what you are, guys, but you must understand that when you see this combination of things together in tandem with the friendliness towards certain people in BLM, there's a structural psychology going there of trying to do something to taint your culture. And I'm just saying that out of respect. Okay. This is not any sort of animosity or anything else like that. I was largely influenced, I would say, honestly, especially in my teenage years, mostly influenced by groups like Public Enemy. They pretty much influenced my sensibilities as far as politics for many, many years. I didn't really even question a lot of their politics until many years later. So I was super into that, guys, really. I mean, it's funny though, because I knew a lot of guys that served in the military. One was in the Navy at one time, and the other one, well, yeah, the one that was in the Navy, especially, I remember he was like a huge Public Enemy fan, and he used to work out to it and things like that, in the gym and everything like that. And he used to tell me, he's like, well, I'm a Republican and everything like that, but I just love Public Enemy. So I understood. It's like one of those things where there's certain kind of music that gets you like worked up and makes you happy, or just gets you motivated to do things or change things. And whatever it is that it does for you individually, it may not be the intention of the artist necessarily to get you to that place, but who knows, man. Maybe at the end of this, guys, we'll figure it that we're not all that different, and that there was a lot of things that were going on, especially with relative to psychotronics, because that's the other part of what they kind of do with these devices, guys. In tandem with all of this technology and smartphone hacking, I wasn't going to get into this topic tonight, so I'm just going to touch upon it briefly before I close up here in a few minutes. There's also the electronic warfare in tandem with it, which is a lot of like hive mind type things, doing things involving the light tasing of the skull, or light torture of people, bioplasma extraction, psychotronic things that would draw plasma from one person towards another, more occulted concepts that place one person that's kind of in a central group in a strong state of like heavy amounts of pain and aching sensations, and in tandem that results in a loss of bioplasma. And that bioplasma, as it dissipates, they have a way of transferring it to either a collector or to another person. That's the part that I need a little bit more help investigating and proving out, more equipment, more whatever people eventually down the line. But that's where I think that we could make a really interesting television show or compelling web-based entertainment, whatever it is that we would decide to do, because this would be delving into concepts that are kind of like paranormal and kind of ghost hunters, adventures type things in nature, but without it being that intangible. Like we would be way more science based, I think, and less like experimental. Um, we would be actually explaining the concepts and then tangibly proving them on camera with actual video footage and things like that. I've already collected quite a few things that are compelling and shown them to people relative to life energies coming from like tree roots and things like that. Life energies coming from certain places in the desert where water's flowing compared to like where there's like, just desert sand. Like going like 1 mile away from a water body, for example, compared to like being closer to the water and taking life meter measurements using the Helionosis life meter. I was doing things like that when I was more mobile and around the California, Nevada area. And so things like that I've been doing already, but that we can expand upon relative to human energy concepts and just sort of proving a lot of these other things out. Uh, Verifying what's going on out there relative to these concepts, proving them, doing these things on camera, gaining the evidence, but also doing things that involve the technology hacks, being sort of a multifaceted group that does all of it. I think it would be really compelling, guys. I mean, especially because it would help us form a group. It would help us fund it, keep it self-funded to where once the initial part got going, just what would be generated. That has nothing to do with being profit motivated or greedy, guys. I mean, but we need to be successful and we need to be relaxed and successful in a state of relaxation and a state of success in order for this to happen. Okay. Because the situations that we would be in and of themselves will bring on the stress automatically. So you're going to need to be, we want this to be something that is fun to do. We don't want this to be something where you feel punished for doing it. You should feel rewarded. You should feel like you've done something and accomplished something. And all I can tell you is that when I was investigating things at a frequency level, even when it was just like interference issues or whatever for a company, those things were extremely satisfying. When you learn some basic technical concepts and you don't really have to have degrees. I don't have them myself. I'm just telling you, a lot of the people that I worked with did not have them. And they were extremely talented and they were very, very intelligent people. They could find anything, any place, any signal anywhere. And you need that. We all need that in this country. The world needs it, and it needs to be spread. What can be done with frequency, what it really means relative to human energy. That just as the documentary says, we're resonance beings of energy, we're resonance beings of frequency, we're, resonant beings of frequency. We vibrate into frequency through this bioplasma field and this shared experience, everything going from pineal gland to pineal gland, our trinity of human energy, getting back to that concept constantly. You can't forget that we're already here in physical matter. We have the first two covered. Everything else is our responsibility, right? The physical, the physical, non-physical, non-visible is your skeleton. This is the physical visible as your epidural layer. And then the plasma field is what you're creating. It's what you're focused on. It's what you're concentrating on. And this is the part that we're going to have to get more people educated about what's happening to their biofield relative to media consumption, relative to frequency entrainment, psychotronic weapons, and all the other things. And once we show people that it's happening and that we can find it, locate it, prove it, and get rid of it, or at least like put a huge dent in its use, man, guys, people are going to be so into this. I promise you, it's going to happen. I can feel it. Actually, I just know. I just know. I know it. It's going to work out. Well, thank you everybody for joining tonight. I do appreciate it. I didn't mean to go on for this long, but hopefully the whiteboards helped. Hopefully the technical parts, getting that out in greater detail was of use to you, and it helped bridge all the data together. It's kind of been like a whole series of discussions that like lately, I'd say the last 4 or 5 that I've done have all been sort of like a series almost. Like I would almost want to put them in the same thing as I've done with energetics. It's just sort of kind of helping people understand what's wrong right now at a psychotronic, frequency, informational, plasma, all of it, frequency related, right down to how it affects human consciousness, to how it affects living creatures. and that this be the core of our material and the way we expand upon it as, perhaps a future project that we can have as a regular series. So anyways, thank you again for joining. I look forward to the next one. Have a good night, or whatever you're having right now, if this is in the future. Have a good one.